first down. Make it 9. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Leonard has to dig deep right away.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
2nd and 5, play fake. Howard flips it. Smith's got it, and the freshman just launches in as the Buckeyes score to answer the Irish.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Judkins slips a tackle. Quinshon Judkins dives for the end zone, and Ohio State makes it 2 for 2 and takes the lead.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Judkins breaks free. Quinshon Judkins into sprint. And they'll finally run him down at the 5. An explosive play.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Heavy pressure, Howard delivers downfield, and Smith, he's got it! Jeremiah Smith hadn't had a touch in the second half until that.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on a Wednesday. And this is 365 Sports. We take you up until 6 o'clock or around that time. Tonight, Baylor at home against Kansas State. We'll look at the Big 12 in basketball a little bit later on during the show today. We will hear from Army quarterback Bryson Daly and SMU's Kevin Jennings, who are finalists for the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. That will be today. We'll have both of them on the show, juggling them in the last hour or so of the show. Also, Taylor McHargue, Eric Galko, who runs the East-West Shrine game up in the Dallas and Fort Worth area, and Zach Gelb will join us too. All right, so Big 12 Media Days last year in Vegas. This year they've made the announcement. They're back in Texas. They're going to go every other year, Texas and then somewhere else. Big 12 Media Days has been before, 2017-18 at the Ford Center. They also had the Combine there just a couple of years ago. So that for us financially, I look at that as a budget thing too. We will be there, of course, in July, a couple of days in July. They're moving it back, and then they'll go somewhere else next year.
I hope it's as fun a city as Vegas is when they move it around. Sogi, with that, the Combine was just last year there, and I think we might be a little bit responsible for this. Because,
we are totally responsible for this.
Absolutely.
I'm not even halfway joking.
No,
we are absolutely responsible
Tell
for
them
this.
the story, guys. Yep.
So we're interviewing Brett Yormark last year and talking about what an awesome facility the Star is, and that back when Big 12 Media Days was here, we actually kind of preferred it to AT&T Stadium because it's kind of easier to navigate than AT&T, and we just liked it better. And Brett Yormark went, I didn't know it was here. Well, that's a really interesting thing. And then all of a sudden they're back.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Again, another thing that 365 Sports has pioneered. I mean, no one but us will give us the credit, but you have to take credit for things that you do, right?
People do take credit for things they didn't have anything to do with all the time. So, I mean, we're going to not be that. But when we do have some credit to take, I think we should take it. My first thought when I saw that was, yep, that was partly us. I mean, and we're not ones that toot our own horns very often, but that's immediately what I thought of was that conversation in Frisco last year. He had no idea they'd ever held media days there. We were talking about Vegas and all of that, and then you saw this light bulb go off over his head whenever he realized that media days had been right there where we were sitting. So, I think it's a logical step to go back to Dallas. You're not going to surrender that territory, if you will. And look, it's divided territory anyways. You've got SMU now in the ACC. You've got Texas and Oklahoma and A&M, and obviously all the flavor in Dallas with all those fan bases. SEC held their media days there last year. So I think it would have been a dumb move on the Big 12's part to basically just go away from Dallas entirely. So it makes sense to rotate it because you do have a much larger map, and I do think Vegas should be in that rotation. I do think there's probably a couple of other spots that you could put in rotation as well, which I'm sure they'll figure out. But Dallas DFW definitely needs to be a part of that rotation because it's also like the center point. Like the one thing about Vegas is, there's a lot more to do and all that, but there's a lot of people, it's a lot more expensive to go to Vegas, or it's a lot farther to go to Vegas, and Dallas is a bit more Frisco center for even the Western teams that have been added. It's actually the most center for basically everybody. So, that's the cool thing, just to kind of start looking ahead a little bit and see kind of what the future looks like and what's in store. And so easy trip for us, like you said, so we'll be happy with that. It's a little bittersweet. Vegas would have been cool, don't get me wrong. But, the Star will do just fine for what Big 12 Media Days needs to do. Which,
by the way, is just around the corner. Yesterday we kind of put a bow, although still a couple of nuggets from the 24 season, including Ohio State, the national championship. If you want to think about next season, not next year, but next season, well, that's one. That's an event that is in early July and eventually – then start the practices in August and into the season openers in August. And speaking of that, is that clock working, Garrett? There you see the countdown. This was from how long ago, Garrett?
This was about 3 hours ago.
Okay, so that's now 212 days, 2 hours, 8 minutes, 32 seconds until Farmageddon opens up the year in Dublin, Ireland, Iowa State, and Kansas State.
Actually, it makes a lot of sense to have Farmageddon in Ireland, which is a very, rural country for the most part. And, famously they grow a lot of potatoes.
I did not know that.
Look, the reason that there's even Irish people in this country is because there was a potato famine in the 1800s, and they got on boats and came here. So, you didn't know that about Ireland? Yeah, well, it's not just about whiskey, Guinness, and drunken buffoonery. There's also potatoes involved.
Okay.
I used to love the Ireland game. Now I hate it with every fiber of my being until this one gets played, and then I'll be fine.
Your team lost there last year.
Yeah.
Mine, the year before that, to Northwestern. So, Craig, I know that yesterday we were kind of like scratching and clawing to hold on to the last remnants of 2024 season, and we will still look at it occasionally, but it's not that far, right, away, 8 months? No, it's not even 8 months, 7 months away.
Yeah, it's not that far away, but I just think I'm doing us a favor by not trying to fast forward and have us doing season previews at the end of February, trying to come up with stuff.
Way too early Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's like we started talking about next year's top 25. It's like, come on, what are we doing? Like, let this thing breathe a little bit. We got plenty of time to do all that. We will be looking forward, but we just spent how many months with this past season? Why are we just going to crumple it up and toss it and just walk away? There's plenty to still dissect from it and talk about, and a lot of it leads into these upcoming months.
Yep.
The results are what we're going to be talking about and stewing on and comparing and doing all that when it comes to looking at next year. So, last year's still very much in the conversation, but, it's still also time to peek ahead a little bit. So you get a media days drop date and you get, combine dates and things like that, and that'll all be upcoming, and that's exciting. So, I am looking forward to that. I just wasn't quite ready to start predicting games for week 1 already, but looking ahead to say K-State and Iowa State will be playing in Ireland to kick off the season, that's worth mentioning, and I'm sure it'll be one of 100 mentions between now and then, but I think that's a really cool game for those two teams to start off with. It's a little weird having that right at the beginning of the year. It's definitely weird having it in Ireland, but Florida State and Georgia Tech and these other teams that have gone over there, seems like it's been a very, very cool experience, and I know for a lot of those fans and those two fan bases who are planning on going, they're excited about it. So, that's a unique way to start off the season, and a big-time game against a big-time opponent for both of those teams, and two teams that you would think, as of right now, starting to look ahead, will be very squarely in that top Big 12 conversation. So we'll get a pretty good indicator of those two teams right out of the gates overseas.
All right, I got to ask you a question, and I don't know the answer. Is that a conference game?
I don't think so, but I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure.
Where are the K-State and Iowa State? More K-State fans who watch us and get in the chat room than Iowa State fans. I just was curious because, Colorado, Baylor and Utah was not a conference game, but it was another game that was not a conference game. So just curious. I love for them. I hope they continue to play every year.
It is a conference game, so based on what I just pulled up. So, I didn't know that for sure. I assume maybe being right at the beginning it wouldn't be, but no, apparently it is. So, that'll be a big game, made even bigger by the fact that it will play into the conference title race.
Back when Nebraska was good, and that was many, many years ago, I remember them one time opening up the Big 12 at home, and it might have been in Lubbock. Tommy Frazier was there, so we know who won, but that didn't happen and last very long, but they did open up one time in the Big 12. So here's another thing that we talked about yesterday, the scheduling of college football. Mark Schipper, we've had him on the show. This is a very, very good comment. Makes a lot of sense. What they can do about it, who knows? January 1st remains the high holy day, the sports special celebration in college football. We ring in the new year with our best bowls. Every day beyond that has a diminishing return. We have to work the calendar with that fact in mind.
No, I agree with him. Actually, I'm the first comment on this. We actually discussed back and forth. Right. I said the latest, like they should set a goal of, because, calendars every year, depending on how things fall, are kind of strange. Like, when is Thanksgiving? Is it an early Thanksgiving? Is it a late Thanksgiving? When are those kind of things?
That does happen. You're right.
So how do you build around things that change every year, like Thanksgiving? Well, I think January 8th should be there. The championship game is no later than January 8th. Like, that is the last day that it could be on. And then, because you can trim, like I said yesterday, there are things that you can trim 3 days here and 3 days there out of this to get you probably to January, at least to January 8th, if not before, most years. But I think you can do some trimming with the schedule, move everything, especially if you make week 0, week 1, get rid of the spring stuff, go to OTAs. There's a way to do the calendar. Now, a lot of this is going to change with collective bargaining, which will happen. But all that, I think, will make everything flow better. And then the calendar will get right. Eventually. It'll take some doing because there's a lot of lobbies and parties and factors in here.
You know what the UIL does every year in Texas? They decide when school starts or not. They figure out when the last weekend is before Christmas weekend for the state championship games to be played, and they go back 17 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's when the season begins. That's what they do. Now, it's a lot different. They don't have to worry about NFL, although they have to worry about what's going on at AT&T Stadium, but that's always something that they know well in advance. They move it back 17 weeks to the start of the year. Not week 0, week 1. It used to be called week 0. It didn't make sense. And that's their schedule. Everybody plays 11 weeks in the regular season, 1 bye week for everybody for the most part, and then 6 weeks to the playoffs, week before Christmas, done.
Yeah, I don't really have super strong feelings on it like a lot of people do. I mean, as far as the season being too long and all of that, I didn't necessarily feel that way. I can understand that sentiment, but I'm not somebody who's like the Rose Bowl's the end-all, be-all, and January 1st is the holy day and all that, but I understand his thought process there, and I can see where that would be a nice anchor point or logical kind of conclusion point for the season. So it's clear the calendar needs some reshaping, some remodeling. I think not only regular season, but obviously postseason is what we're talking about here, and offseason as much as anything else as well. So y'all brought up a couple of the ideas like OTAs and changing around spring football and doing stuff like that. I mean, I'm actually more interested in that part of it than the season ending at a certain point. But there is some tweaking that's needed. I think everybody can agree on that. I like the 2 bye weeks. I think especially when you're going to have a long season, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I actually enjoyed it as an observer. I enjoyed having a couple of weeks in between all of the games to kind of take a breather. Now, if I wasn't going to games every Saturday, maybe I'd feel differently about that. Maybe I'd be saying cut out this second bye week, we don't need it. But I think with all of the obligations and just kind of way the game is, you sort of need that second bye week. So, yeah, I guess that goes back to normal, right, next year. So that won't be the case, so that'll help. But, yeah, there's some tweaking to do. I will agree on that. I just don't have like a super strong opinion one way or the other. But Mark there has a nice idea to go off of and to tinker with for sure.
They just need it. Even if it's not like you get it further close to January 20th, there's so much dead time in between. And I know that the coaches like this, but you got to go. Like, you can't just sit there and wait around. Like, just go. Like, build the momentum. Waiting so long after conference title games, I know that like like the NFL, like only one team gets a bye week now, right? Only one on either league. So it would be like the playoffs starting, and then you have a week there. Well, the committee's going to do this whole big thing we've been waiting for all year long, and then you wait 2 weeks to play is kind of, you lose a little bit of your buzz because all of a sudden then it pops up out of nowhere like, oh, hey, the playoffs are starting today. I think they got to start.
One of the things about it, and they have to juggle because of the NFL, and it's incredibly powerful, which we've discussed, and that's not breaking news, is that you have, like, for example, it depends if you had a first-round bye for conference champions, at least this year and maybe next. You had, let's say, 18 days. Everybody else might have had 11 or 12. But then it's one team plays 10 days later. One team plays 8 days later. One team might play 9 days later. And it just seems like it's not all when everybody's going to play. It's part of what they have to deal with the football calendar from around the country. So there we are. That's a note from Mark Schipper. Good dude. We appreciate his comment. That makes all the sense in the world to me. Can they do anything about it? I don't know. Now, Ohio State, another nugget about the defending champions. We've discussed who they beat in a row. The teams that were all ranked inside the top 10, including a repeat game by getting back with Oregon after losing by 1. So these are the wins against teams inside the top 10. Now, I'm not saying it's the most dominant season in college football history like the reporter. But when you look at it, because I keep forgetting that, Texas was a 14-point game, even though it was tied a couple of times, and it was right there at the 1-yard line.
I mean, that could have been a blowout, too, if like one or two plays goes differently. Yep. I know we don't play the what if and all that, but, like, for all of the talk about the blowout in the national championship game, there's a couple other games that could have gotten real squirrely.
14 points, yeah. And so 14-7, Notre Dame by 11, Indiana by 23, and they beat Tennessee to death by 25. Indiana was a regular season game. Penn State was a regular season game. And of course, the losses to Oregon and Michigan. But we've kind of all said that whoever wins the national championship, when you have to play 3 or 4 playoff games, not just 1 or 2, man, that puts you in that discussion. I don't know if we'll ever see anybody run the table again. Probably will. But that right there, when you put it in those terms and those numbers and those margins, is incredible.
Also, here's the best part about the 12-team playoff. You actually get to see a team that's second or third or, whatever they were. I mean, the one up first, but you get to see a top 5 team play a number 1 team, 2 number 3s, 2 number 5s, and a 7. That's pretty damn cool, right?
Yep.
Like, that's seeing the best matchups. So
all we heard during Texas and Oklahoma's exodus was, besides the "we're too good for you," which was funny because, a lot of people saying that are absolutely not better than you. They're just anonymous online. But a lot of it was, we need bigger games. Iowa State's measly Iowa State, Baylor's little Baylor, and little TCU. Like, remember, like, all these, we're playing all these teams that don't fill our stadium. We need these big matchups. Well, you got your big matchups. I mean, certainly if you're an Ohio State ticket holder, you got your big matchups, to your point there. A lot of big games on the schedule.
Absolutely. Those are some, and that's the impressive part about not only how much they won by, but who they beat along the way. Now, I saw this note, and I'm struggling to find, even though I have the tweet in front of me. So the free agent market, when it comes to the NFL and running backs, how's this going to affect college football? I'm going to show you in a minute. The free agent market, when it comes to the NFL, appears to be somewhat that there's some players that have not yet declared, or we don't know if they're going to re-sign with their teams and all that negotiating thing that goes on after the Super Bowl. But
declarations are done, right? Like, I mean,
for free agents in the NFL.
Oh, I'm talking about for
no. I'm talking about
players.
Those who might become free agents in the NFL, and it's kind of a blah list. But Dane Brugler said, that may be the case. But my God, the college football incoming running backs, Craig, now that you mentioned it, yes, they've declared, is loaded. Loaded. Do we have that at all? Okay. Obviously, Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, Dylan Sampson of Tennessee, Jordan James, and it goes on and on and on with how many college running backs are going to be draft eligible when the draft hits in late April.
Okay.
It is a phenomenal list. Do you have the rest of it?
No. I can give you the list. I will in a second. But I want to just to illustrate your point about the blah of the free agency market. There are 3 guys who will get market value good looks. And it is Aaron Jones, who was just on a one-year deal because he's Aaron Jones. But even then, he's 30 years old. Najee Harris will probably score the best deal of any of the free agent running backs because he's just 26. And then J.K. Dobbins is coming off a career year. I would think that he might just go back and sign with the Chargers because it worked out so well. But the rest of it is Jeff Wilson, A.J. Dillon, Nick Chubb's got a ton of injuries, Alexander Madison, guys like that. So I'm not giving you a who's who of power backs, but when you look at Genty, Hampton, Scadaboo, Devin Neal, Taj Brooks, Ollie Gordon. I'm like right now I'm living RJ Harvey. I'm living in the Big 12 right now. Like I haven't even gotten into some of the other big names that are going to be out there. The running backs are really deep and really good this year. And teams, some teams might need two of them because they don't have a good running back depth situation. You'll easily be able to do that if you have the picks this year. So there are so many good running backs this year in the draft. It's the best year for running backs in a long time. And in spite of people like Mel Kiper, I read his mock draft today, and he's still like, well, I still don't like taking running backs in the first round, but Ashton Genty's okay. And you're like, come on, man. Like,
are you watching the NFL this year, Mel? Honest to God.
Well, I was going to say that. This is a year the value of a running back has seemed like it's spiked back up.
Well, okay, and here's the other thing. He's the one who is on, like, I wish they would ban two deep safeties as coverage in the NFL. And everybody saw that's like, well, just hand the ball to the running back.
Yeah.
The safeties aren't anywhere close to him. Maybe he can get some yards. So, again, like, this is the time to kind of cash in on that. But, yeah, there are a lot of really, really good running backs. Road graders out there. Corey Kiner from Cincinnati is one that I like. So this is the best year for running backs, and the running back-assance is on.
Well, Kuiper released his. So did Dane Brugler, who I love, the guy from theathletic.com. We've had him on. Eric Galko will join us at 5:30. We'll be able to talk to him about the East-West Shrine Bowl that he runs in Dallas-Fort Worth, but also about that particular position, too. All right, so there is that. LSU, that's their stadium field last night. Our good friend Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com, and I saw tons of video. Bourbon Street, they were having snow fights, which is nice that they can go out and like enjoy that. We've seen all the Florida coast, around the southern coast, snow everywhere. Destin, Tallahassee was snow, blizzard, some 10 inches in some areas, but that is a really iconic type photo. LSU, the Tiger helmet at their great stadium, and it's just been unbelievable. I wish we would have gotten some of it, but there's an interesting note with all the schools in the South. Now, a story about this. There was an LSU writer, and it wasn't like Mike or even somebody from the newspaper, that they showed Missouri's stadium once with snow on it. And I think maybe even Fayetteville. And a guy who covers LSU or an LSU fan goes, this is the reason why you do not belong in the SEC, that you allow your stadium to be snowed in. And then here we are with all of the stadiums in the South pretty much being snowed under in the last 2 or 3 days. And he was like, yeah, I was wrong. So LSU, beautiful picture from Mike Scarborough with the helmet on the field.
Yeah, I wish, I'm glad. I'm kind of glad personally that we didn't get a lot of ice and snow because Amanda left on a vacation today and it would have caused a lot of stress at the old Catalina household. But
well, she's gone. What difference does it make?
Well, no, I mean like getting her out, flight cancellations and all that stuff. But she's on her way to her vacation, and that's great. But yeah, no, I do wish, as much as I hate the cold weather, as long as the power's not going to go out and it's going to be reasonable cold, I could look out the window at some snow.
You know what's funny is over the weekend, I think it was Saturday afternoon about 2 o'clock, my power went out. During that ice storm in 2021, everybody else is out. I didn't. I had unbelievable heat. Craig, you had a miserable situation. And mine went out for about an hour. I think they were testing to see what was going on. But it's been beautiful. It's a beautiful day today. Now, Grant Teaff, longtime Baylor football coach. Tonight they are going to name the Paul Bear Bryant Coach of the Year. I know Rhett Lashley's on his way there. All the coaches who are a part of that, as far as finalists, will be there. Grant Teaff. There's a picture, again, with the Pittmans, obviously Lane and also Drew, his wife Donnell, and Coach Teaff is going to receive tonight, and it will be broadcast on CBS Sports. I think it's like at 9:30 and 11:30 tonight, the Paul Bear Bryant Lifetime Achievement Award. He will be presented that tonight. There he is down in Houston right now.
Yeah, nobody more deserving than Coach Teaff. One of the great human beings on the face of the earth, did a lot for players, did a lot for just as long for coaches. He was head of the Coaches Association for a really long time, and represented them very, very well. The only thing I think Coach Teaff and I have ever disagreed on is he was anti-playoff for a long time, because and the reason he was is the coaches didn't want one. So when the coaches want one, of course, you represent for the coaches. But
things change.
But he's a dear, dear friend of ours, and I have nothing but love and respect for that man.
Yeah, well, the sport he coached at the time is nothing like the sport that's going on right now. So, things change, and certainly I don't know where his opinion stands on that, but the game that he was speaking of at that time is not the game going on right now. So I don't know how coaches feel about it. I think there's actually a lot more benefits, more playoff spots to get to. There's also some downsides of how have you not made the playoff? There's 12 spots if you're not careful here in the next few years, although it's probably going to be 14 or whatever. So there will be this pressure to make the playoff because there is a big field, but compared to basically 0.01 access for a lot of teams, especially when he was coaching, I think it's a cool thing for a lot of present-day coaches. But, very deserving. I don't know what honors he doesn't have at this point, but there's another one for you, so congratulations.
Down over where we were staying for the bowl game, the Post Oak Hotel in Houston. That goes on tonight, and it'll be on television, and I think there's a replay later on tonight too. So there we are. Congratulations to Coach Teaff for something very well earned and the respect that so many people have for him. The Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award banquet is tonight. In Tyler, 5 finalists: Ashton Genty, Kevin Jennings, and Bryson Daly to the right, who we hope to have on the show today, and then Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward on the left. What? Did you just take a deep breath?
I guess so. I don't know. I guess I did.
That dinner is tonight in Tyler. Those are the 5 finalists, and someone wins that award tonight. I would think Ashton Genty, most likely the favorite to win that. He was the runner-up for the Heisman to Travis Hunter, and a lot of people thought he could have won that. But Hunter, of course, from Colorado, won the Heisman Trophy. 2 NFL notes. Liam Cohen, he's staying with the Buccaneers, Paul.
Yeah, he is. He turned down the Jaguars job. The Jaguars, this is the second coach who's turned this job down, and Shad Khan said that if this happened and they couldn't hire a coach, he would look at firing the GM. Well, guess what he just did? Trent Baalke, the GM, in the last hour has been fired.
Oh, has he been? Okay.
Yeah, so Liam Cohen turned him down. I thought that he was going to get that job and take it. If I were him, that's the one I would take that's open with matching my skills as a quarterback guru with the best available quarterback, which would be Trevor Lawrence. But he turned it down. He's going to go back and be with the Bucs.
You think, can he change his mind now that Baalke's gone?
Well, you never know, and then we'll see. And that depends on who they're going to have to hire a general manager now, or they're going to have to they're going to do it hire a coach and then the coach picks the general manager, which I don't think is ever a good idea. I think they should
what?
Do it. Yeah, that's sometimes what happens is the coach gets to say hey, you should call Craig Smoak. He was the assistant GM in the place I was the OC.
No, I know that things can be different. Everybody's different.
But
Cowboys run theirs
GM
different.
now,
You run the GM is the one who needs to hire the coach. You hire the GM. The GM's job is to build the roster and the team with the help of the head coach. You would think the GM to hire the head coach.
Well, it's long overdue for a lot of Jaguars fans, and he's prevented them from probably hiring a couple of pretty good candidates. He was the guy that was in the way, basically. So for Shad Khan, a move that needed to be made is probably long overdue. Definitely overdue as far as this coaching carousel, because he might have cost himself a couple of pretty good hires because he waited until now to finally pull the trigger on a guy that a lot of people don't think's very good at his job and is a detriment to that organization. But it's a long day coming for a lot of Jags fans who have wanted to see him leave. And so I don't know if it's too little too late. But it is a bit later than you probably could have made this decision. So I don't know why you did it now, outside of just the realization of he's screwed up this entire coaching cycle for you, or has definitely hurt it, and you just can't deal with it anymore. So I think this is actually very much a positive for Jacksonville. I don't know if they'll ever get their S together or not, but I do think that with Trent Baalke out of the way, they've got a lot better opportunity to do so.
All right. Also, one other note, Aaron Glenn. Phil Bennett brought him up Monday when he joined us on the show. Going to be a part of the New York Jets. I would think this is the one that made the most sense. Now they lose Ben Johnson, obviously, to Chicago. Everyone thought that Aaron Glenn would be gone too. He is. He now taking the job with the Jets, so those are 2 NFL jobs off the table.
Yeah, I think it's a great hire for the Jets. Hopefully the owner stays out of Aaron Glenn's way, but I think he's going to be a really, really good head coach.
I think that's a really good hire. I don't like New York. I don't like the Jets. I can't wait. I can wait to hear Mike Greenberg talk about how this is the greatest or not greatest thing ever. And I mean, that's why I don't watch a lot of that anyways, but I know we'll get our fill of Jets coverage one way or the other. It was nauseating to me with the Aaron Rodgers and all. I just didn't care. I just did not care. But I know that it obviously pulls in ratings. It's a big market and all of that. So to me, I'm sort of disinterested in them as a franchise because of all the coverage and just the fact that what have they really done, honestly? So maybe this will change that. Maybe because I like Aaron Glenn, and I think he's a guy who definitely is deserving of an opportunity. Nice little Texas A&M coaching tree going on now in the NFL. So good luck to him in trying to turn around what's pretty much been a circus here as of late. And, you're in New York. That's great. That's the starting point for everybody. Hey, it's New York. It's New York. Okay, well, then when you put the ball down and when you have to put a franchise together, what does it look like? And it's been a mess, so good luck to him in trying to clean some of that up and maybe getting them back to their winning ways. But definitely deserving, and what a offseason, what a last few days for Detroit Lions fans, from thinking that you're probably heading to the NFC Championship game, and then you get just stunned by Washington, and now you kind of expected you could lose both coordinators, but you've officially lost both coordinators. You still love Dan Campbell, but this little magical team you had just fell apart at the seams here over the last 7 days. So it's been a tough end of the season, I think, for a lot of Detroit folks.
All 4 of the teams that lost this past weekend had more yards than the team that beat them. But Detroit, surely with the 5 turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, when you spot the ball,
God,
pretty much wherever the other team wants it.
Well, one was run back for a touchdown. Yeah. Another one was while you were going in to take a 14-3 lead, and you fumble a strip sack, and then all the other things that ended the game too. So it's interesting how that balloon popped very quickly. But they knew that Johnson and Glenn might be gone, but they thought it would be at least another week after winning the NFC Championship game. And maybe in that bubble week between the championship weekend and, of course, the off week before Super Bowl week in New Orleans.
By the way, Al Golden officially on his way to the Bengals as their new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and there you go with that. Had a great run. I thought he did. Notre Dame's defense was really, really good. Now, Ohio State had a lot of weapons in the way they played that game on Monday night. With everything now official, who has the longest active streak of being ranked consecutively in AP right now among the Associated Press actively?
Ohio State?
Nope. They're 3rd among active schools.
Okay.
Started in 2008. Somebody arrived at a place in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, Alabama.
17 consecutive years they've been ranked. Clemson is 14 consecutive years now from 2011 through this past year, and Ohio State has been ranked 13 consecutive years. So there you are with that. The longest streak ever, believe me, it seemed like it's a long time ago, 33 consecutive years. Nebraska was ranked from 1969 until the 2001 team that was bludgeoned by Colorado. And then Michigan, 20 consecutive years, is number 2. Florida State had a great run of 19 consecutive years ranked inside the top 25. All right, a lot to get to. 3:34. Garrett Ross will have Taylor McHargue coming around the corner. His thoughts about the national championship game and some of the other nuggets that he saw. I was given 2 tickets to tonight's Baylor K-State game by Brian Etheridge, one of our owners, and he sent it to me. I think it's in the wallet, like that app. If you want to go, If you want to text me, if you're around the area and you can go tonight, K-State and Baylor, first person that hits the text line, 254-339-1122, I'll need your name and I'll need your cell phone number. So I can also send you the first person who gets in the chat that wants the 2 tickets. I will send those to you courtesy of 365 Sports. I think I got everything. Oh, if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button. We would appreciate you doing that. And yesterday we had validation about how much that means to us. All right, back in a moment. Taylor McHargue next, CBS and ESPN college football analyst. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. He also has the ability to be your family doctor, too. But he does specialize in testosterone levels as far as what may be happening inside of your body. This is for men. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone that could lead to, it could be a problem with your sleep. Low testosterone is obviously something that affects your energy. It obviously affects your sex drive and can create ED. How do you find out if that's a problem for you if you have any of those symptoms? You just don't feel right. It's the gas in your engine. Contact him online at pettycliniclowt.com. Tell him I sent you, and they will get in touch with you. Set up an appointment for you to go get your blood work, take care of that, get the results. And if your testosterone level is too low, Dr. Petty can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level at pettycliniclowt.com.
It's time to start something new at Allen Samuels. Drive into 2025 with huge savings on all of our Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles, from a trail-conquering Jeep Grand Cherokee, towing in style with a Ram Heavy Duty, or cruising the city in a sporty and luxurious Ram 1500, we've got the perfect ride for you. Stop by Allen Samuels in Waco, where we make car buying easy.
Come by, let's be friends.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
If you want quality and personalized service for all your air conditioning and heating needs, call Tradesman Services. They're a family-owned and operated company that has served Texans for over 30 years. Tradesman offers maintenance plans starting at just $12 per month and a free service call for all new customers. They're also experts in geothermal design, installation, and service. Visit them online at coolingwaco.com.
I'll never get used to this.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Taylor McHargue, former Rice quarterback, ESPN, CBS college football analyst, joins us here on 365 Sports. David Smoak with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Taylor, thank you very much for your time. Ohio State gets off the mat, wins 4 straight, beat 4 really good teams, and beat most of them up. Your thoughts about what the Buckeyes accomplished?
Yeah, I thought it was the run. If you go back to that image of Ryan Day standing at midfield as guys are getting pepper sprayed, from Michigan players after they had just lost to Michigan at home. You take that picture and say that team is going to go on the run that they went on. I think most people would have been extremely surprised and probably call you crazy, but they rallied, and they being that Ohio State staff and obviously the guys on the team rallied around the message of, well, now it feels like it's us against the world. And they played with an edge and an attitude in all 4 of their matchups. And they did not have an easy path, having to play Tennessee at home, routing Oregon in the Rose Bowl. It felt like every step of the way. Texas, to me, that was the game that out of all 4 of these ended up being the most competitive, even though the national championship got close late. I thought Texas' defensive line and their style of play in the secondary, I thought that presented some challenges and the closest game out of the 4. But to me, it was a team that was playing with an edge and with an attitude that showed up in every single one of their wins on the way to their national championship.
Taylor, Ryan Day was at a point of out of excuses. And, based on past years, it looked like he really tightened up in pressure situations in big games. The only games he's ever lost are to good teams, right? He's never chucked one up to Purdue or Northwestern or Jacksonville State. Like, he's an elite coach that has not proven to a lot of people he's elite until 2 days ago. What do you think changed between the Michigan game and the playoffs to make him finally kind of hit that potential?
Well, it is interesting because, if you asked a lot of Ohio State fans in the conversation around Ryan Day, I think there's a decent case to be made that if they had lost to Oregon in the Rose Bowl, that Ohio State may have moved on from Ryan Day. Despite all the success that they've had, the losses to Michigan, I think winning the national championship and getting to the semifinal probably would have saved his job either way. But even though they made it into the playoff, that loss to Michigan, if they had, in a hypothetical situation, if they had lost to Oregon, I think you maybe would have seen Ohio State move on from Ryan Day. But I go back to that he was able to instill that message into his guys and into the players at Ohio State that now, it is us against the world. Our backs are against the wall. And everybody thinks that now we're down after that loss at home against Michigan. And they came out and they played angry. And that was a side of Ohio State that the amount of talent that's on that roster. Will Howard played unbelievable in the national championship game. Will Howard is like the 6th or 7th best starter on that offense. He's going to be a guy that I think's got a pro future, but you've got first-round picks all over the place on that offense. And so the talent was clearly already there. I think they were able to rally around that message and galvanize themselves around the loss against Michigan. And that edge, I know it sounds cliche and is a football, kind of a term in football that gets used too often, but playing angry and playing with that edge, you saw that week in and week out during that 4-game win streak through the playoffs. And a big part of that is credit to Ryan Day and that staff for getting that message through clearly to those Ohio State players, and then able to capture that and use that for the entire run through the playoffs.
Taylor, you mentioned Will Howard there ends up as the national championship game MVP, wins the title there with the Buckeyes. What do you make of just his story, deciding to leave Manhattan with Avery Johnson sitting there and kind of the feeling of, hey, thanks for everything, but we're kind of looking over here now. Obviously, he was coveted. I mean, he goes to Ohio State, but to actually complete this storyline is pretty cool, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And I think, he did, especially in the last 2 games, they were so far out ahead of Tennessee and Oregon that I think, to be completely honest, I'm not sure it would have mattered who was at quarterback in those first 2 games. I think they would have won. But I thought he played extremely well and within their system against Texas and against in the national championship against Notre Dame. And in both of those examples, going back to the Texas game, you saw a lot of off coverage. Texas was making sure that they didn't get beat over the top by these weapons on the outside. And they let Michael Taff at safety stay really deep and play downhill and try to make tackles in the run game. But they weren't letting anything get behind them, and they were trying not to give up the explosive play. Notre Dame did something similar. Well, what that tells you as a quarterback is you got to be patient. You got to take the underneath throws. And in the national championship, I believe he started 13 of 13, and it may have been more than that. But he was perfect in the first half, and it was all, even timing routes and checkdowns and hitches, all of the routes that they were working through. he was on the money and he was patient. They weren't forcing the football down the field. And I think he played his way up. I don't know where he's going to end up on draft boards, but I certainly think this run, I don't think there's any question that he improved his draft stock through the college football playoff run.
I was going to ask you that because I had somebody today ask me that about what do you see from him, because there hasn't been a lot of like oomph when it comes to his name, when it comes to the quarterback play. And there's not even sure how many quarterbacks that go in the first round. Cam Ward, maybe Shador, whatever else happens. But does he have everything you need?
I think he has the intangibles, certainly. I mean, the size, arm strength, pedigree. He's played at a high level for a very long time. I think between Shador Sanders and Cam Ward, I think those are going to be some combination of 1 and 2 out of the quarterbacks that get taken. I think in that next crop of quarterbacks, I think that's where you include Will Howard. And in this modern era of the NFL draft and teams reaching up and taking first-round quarterbacks and trying to get them to work out right away and then moving on quickly if it doesn't work. Think about a Will Levis. I think that's where did Will Howard play himself into the first round? Maybe. There are enough teams that need solutions at quarterback every year now that I think it's possible he may end up with a first-round grade and be taken in the first round. I think there's no doubt that he's going to be, at worst, a day 2 pick. I think you'll see him go, I don't think he'll slide to the third round. I think he'll be a first or second round pick because, again, there just aren't that many guys that you feel like, could this be a starter in this year's class? And I think he's certainly one of them.
With the financial payouts the way they are, Notre Dame gets $20 million. They don't have to share with anybody. Do you think that this maybe solidifies them as a team with a young coach that's not probably going anywhere anytime soon?
I think Marcus Freeman is it's interesting that he's done an unbelievable job. The 2 blemishes on his resume are non-conference losses to Group of 5 teams, Marshall in his first year and then Northern Illinois this year. Outside of that, there's a couple other blemishes and losses along the way, but by and large, he's done an unbelievable job. And yeah, I think if I'm Marcus Freeman, I don't know. I have no idea, no personal relationship to him, no idea what his long-term dreams and aspirations are. But if you want to stay at the college level, there aren't very many jobs, maybe any job, depending on the person you ask, that you would put ahead of Notre Dame. Now, maybe one day does he want to try and test the NFL? We've seen plenty of coaches at the college ranks that jump up and try to do that at the National Football League level. But I think for now, there's no doubt that Notre Dame has found their guy. They've got a system in place that works. The way that they're using their collective, it's not quite as robust and as strong as Ohio State, but there's clearly plenty of talent on the roster right now at Notre Dame, and the buy-in from a university level and that fan base, I think they're all behind Marcus Freeman right now.
So, Taylor, the first round of the playoffs, there was some blowouts. Everybody lost their dadgum minds in some ways about the seeding and all that. And some of that is actually, justifiable. But I felt like there was it went a little overboard in that first round. And then sure enough, we got some pretty great games in the semis. And then the national championship game was a dud. Do you have any strong feelings about just sort of this postseason examination of the year, whether it be the playoff format, and in particular the season ending as late as it did, and just maybe the lack of momentum heading into the national championship game? Do you have any thoughts on how to change that? Did that stick out to you at all? How did you feel about just the way the bow was put on this college football season?
Yeah, I do think it ended up being too late. I think once you get into once you move past the wild card round of the playoffs, people have really moved on to, it's NFL playoff time. And gosh, I think people even moved, depending on the part of the country you're in, into hoops, into college basketball. And it did feel a little odd how late in January the national championship was. I still hate that it's played on a Monday, but I don't think that's changing anytime soon because they don't want to compete. If you have it in those 2 weekends, either 2 weekends before or that weekend, then you're dealing with a wild card round or the divisional playoff round. And if you look at those first round of playoff games that went up against just regular season matchups for the NFL dominated in ratings. Mm-hmm. And so college football does not want to go head to head against any NFL window, especially the playoffs. I think more and more it's trending towards we may see the college schedule shift forward just slightly, maybe starting a week earlier where they're getting to camp at the end of July, and then the first game of the season is really in that third week of August, and by that extra week. I think that's going to be one piece. I think shortening the transfer portal window, which it sounds like we're close to that happening, where it shifts down to one window a year instead of two, and after the season and the bowl season has completed, where there's really just a couple playoff teams left, I think that would be a solution. But I thought overall the expanded playoff was good for the sport. We've talked about this a lot this year on your show when I've been on. I don't think there's any question that at the end of the season in November, having all of these different fan bases that are still engaged and dialed in and have hope, that's good for the sport. Because when we had it at the 4-team and then the BCS before that, the more that this goes to a pay-to-play model, and really, for all intents and purposes, it's minor league football now. If you just have 8 to 10 teams that realistically have a shot at getting into a playoff, you're going to have more and more teams that just stop giving money to NIL and collectives, and it's going to make it harder and harder to compete. Where right now, I think it's the opposite. I mean, look at the momentum that Arizona State now has, and Kenny Dillingham leaning fully into NIL and raising money for their roster. There are examples around the sport of that, and I think it's a good thing. The last thing that I'll say, I think there's got to be some sort of adjustments to the seeding. I think the way that Penn State, for example, their run versus what Oregon had to face, and I think there's some that didn't line up. It didn't feel as fair as it probably should have been. But it's going to be an inexact science. It's not the structure that we have in the NFL, because there's not as much parity in college football as there is in the NFL. So overall, was really pleased with the structure, was pleased with the expanded playoff. It's not perfect, but I am a much bigger fan of this format than the 4-team or the BCS era.
You said something in there with more teams and more fan bases engaged. Major League Baseball figured this out like 35 years ago when they were like, hey, let's expand the playoff. And then they've decided to expand it again. I don't know if you remember when the trade deadline used to be some teams that were 7 games out of first place would just be like, yeah, we're going to trade the whole roster. Now, if you are within the wild card, you're in it. So teams aren't dumping, and fans are, at least fans of baseball, are more engaged in that. Like, it's the same thing for college football, right? Like, if my team's close to 12th, like, I'm holding on for dear life.
Shahan Jeyarajah, who works for CBS, and of course you do work with them too, was talking about how he had more people asking him this year about UNLV, Boise State, Iowa State, and South Carolina than he ever would have had it been the old format.
And I think college football is unique in that teams that know at the beginning of the year that they are not going to win the national championship still care very much about their college football team and about their season. They want to be able to compete at the highest level possible, and getting into the playoff, I think it's a little different. It's a lot different really than professional sports, where the entire goal and intent in any professional sport is to win championships, and you're building your roster and working towards that ideally every single year, no matter what. College athletics, there's 135 teams, and the overwhelming majority know they're not going to win a national championship. But it is program changing to get into this format. You talked about the money that gets shared, even out of, the Big 12, for example, a Texas Tech, a Cincinnati, a Houston, having a chance to get a seat at the table and get in the college football playoff. That's monumental, much less the group of 5. The allowing those kids at the group of 5 level to have the dream and say you can get into the playoff. And I don't think Boise State was that far away from really competing against Penn State in that game. Penn State, Drew Aller hit a couple amazing throws, but it wasn't like they got run out of the building. So I think it's going to be interesting as this plays out. That's the one bid that I'm a little bit worried about is that group of 5 spot. Do the powers that be at the very top, do they try to remove that group of 5 spot? I hope not, because as somebody that covers a lot of the group of 5 and especially the Mountain West, I think it's a good thing. And then the last thing that I'll say, it'll be interesting as the Pac-12 expands. How does is that treated really like more of a group of 5 spot than it would be a Power 4 spot? It's going to be an inexact science, but you guys said it. I completely agree. The expanded format, keeping this many fan bases engaged, I think is a good thing for the sport.
Taylor, do you have time for one more question?
Absolutely.
I know you're on the road. So what in your opinion, the Big 12 is going to have some quarterbacks move on, but they're also going to have some coming back, including Sawyer Robertson. From the time you saw him the first time, and of course he was at Mississippi State, Mike Leach recruited him, so that says everything, to where he was at the end of the year when they made the run. What are your thoughts about him as he has another year of offseason into next year?
Well, I think Baylor, and Sawyer Robertson specifically, but Baylor is a team that's going to be really interesting next year because, if you look at how the year played out, that first half of the season, where I remember coming on with you guys and saying, man, this is feeling like if this could go one of two ways. I mean, they had a 3-game losing streak in the middle of the year, and after they lost, and it was good teams, Colorado, BYU, and I believe it was Iowa State. After they get through that stretch, it's like, man, is Dave Aranda, is this going to be it? And then they went out. You go all the way, obviously not the bowl game, but had big wins down the stretch. They beat teams that I would say everybody that they were supposed to. And Sawyer Robertson was a huge part of that. And I think that's the kind of momentum that Baylor has missed for a while and Dave Aranda missed. And for Sawyer Robertson to go through that as a quarterback, that gives you a ton of confidence going into the offseason that, okay, now instead of, okay, we lost that 3-game stretch against the top, some of the top teams in the league. Well, now we're one of the top teams in the league. And I think if there's anything we learned from the Big 12 last year, and I think we've known this for a while, but last year especially, there is the difference between the top of that league and the bottom is pretty thin. The margin for error is really thin in that league. And I think Baylor, if they can close out some of the close losses that they had last year and flip those, I think that's another one of those teams that absolutely has a chance to not only win the Big 12, but maybe that's the team that is knocking on the door of an at-large bid. And that is the goal of the Big 12, is to get beyond just a 1-bid league, but try to get to where they're a 2-bid league at a minimum.
Somewhere next year, a team we don't expect that's not picked inside the top 10 will compete for the conference title and maybe play for it, like Arizona State, BYU this year, of course, how good they were. And then there's always going to be 5 teams in the middle that, you're right, a game or two here and there, and they are playing for the Big 12 title. And there's a whole stack of them. Tech hopes to go to that next level. Obviously, a few others do too, including maybe Colorado, despite losing Hunter and Shador and a bunch of wide receivers too. Taylor, it's been great, man. We still, if you don't mind, every once in a while we'll get back with you and your thoughts about the quarterback play and also the upcoming NFL draft.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Love to get back on and talk draft with you guys, and love joining the show during the season.
It was fun, yeah.
Hopefully we'll run it back again next year.
Taylor McHargue, college football analyst for both ESPN and also CBS with us, has been joining us almost exclusively every Wednesday since the early part of the season. All right, around the corner, we will still, and it's going to be kind of a juggling act with Army quarterback Bryson Daly and with Kevin Jennings from SMU. We've had them on before. And then also Zach Gelb of Infinity Sports Network. There's going to be a time from about, we think, 4:40 to about 5:30 where we'll be juggling a lot of different guests, including, I can't wait to hear from Eric Galko on the East-West Shrine Bowl, which is up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on January the 30th. Garrett, we showed the video or the picture of the LSU helmet, correct? Right. Stat for you, Go Tigers. New Orleans, Louisiana has received more than double the amount of snowfall that Anchorage, Alaska received since the start of the meteorological winter on December the 1st.
That's ridiculous, but given the way things are now, I'm not surprised.
8 inches, and this was from earlier this morning, about 9 o'clock. New Orleans has had 8 inches of snow, Anchorage 3.8 inches of snow. Now, at any time they could have like 5 feet up there too, right. But at the same time, that's what's happening in the South. It's been crazy.
I saw a video a while ago that I think it was Bleacher Report hockey NHL where Bourbon Street's frozen over and you have people playing hockey on it right now. That's pretty awesome.
That's cool. That's very, very cool.
I'm going to tell you, I would not want to skate on Bourbon Street.
Come on.
Well, you could do that with the slime and
ice?
the beer.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff that's
yellow
frozen.
Ice.
No.
Well, then at least it's covered up.
Okay, I've been, and I'm a big fan of New Orleans and Bourbon. It's one of my favorite places in the world. But I guess it's probably better to walk on ice there than it is to walk when it's not.
Probably.
Because I have stepped in a lot of things on Bourbon Street and went, really hope it's from that horse.
Wait a minute. That what does it matter where it's from? It's
well,
gross.
I mean, I'd rather it be from the horse than
looking forward to seeing how they handle
this guy casting a voodoo curse on me.
The Super Bowl coming up in just, 2 or 3 weeks. We'll be there. In fact, on Monday, February, the 2nd? February the 2nd through Friday the 6th. The game, of course, or maybe it's the 3rd through the 7th. The game is on that Sunday afterwards. And who knows who's going to be there? Buffalo, Kansas City, Washington, or Philadelphia.
I'm going to send you and Garrett on the ghost tour that Amanda and I took when we were there before.
Yeah, my ability to do things in New Orleans has changed so dramatically with age.
The ghost tour is a good thing for you. Yeah. You just go to a bunch of graveyards and old abandoned hospitals and stuff like that, and a person who believes wholeheartedly in ghosts freaks you out for 2 hours.
Oh, okay. All right. That's how much, $50?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was not a bad go.
I go down there and cannot wait. And even though Gangs of New York, the atmosphere inside Radio Row, that's how it's described by me. I just love the fact that there's going to be so much damn good food there.
I'm going to start making restaurant reservations now.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Walk in. All right. When
we
come back,
on.
Much more to get to. And oh, by the way, the NFL season, which is wrapping up with there's only 3 games left of football, guys. 3 football games left in the football season. 3. There were games every night there for a while, but just 3 games left, the 2 on Sunday, and then also the game Super Bowl 59? Yes, 59 in New Orleans. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club, they're having an event, let's see, today's the 22nd, the 25th, coming up this weekend from 11:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. It's a What's Up Waco event with the Baylor Club. A recharge, retweet, treat, open house, and wellness expo. Enjoy the best of local wellness vendors, fun, healthy food, live music, raffles, seminars, exclusive membership offers, and giveaways inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. And, of course, if you ever want to go there, have dinner there, or look around or get a tour of the Baylor Club inside the stadium, tell them that you are a part of what you do. You watch us, whether it's 365 Sports or Sikkim 365 as well. 75% off the initiation fee. Ask them first. And also, there's a possibility you're going to get some dues that will be reduced for at least a month or 2. And it is Mike Mosel, the general manager. It is a fantastic place to get great food, whether you want to get dressed up and somewhat fancy or you want to relax where there's more of a, I guess you could say, a buffet. You know, the kind that if you want, with pork loin or prime rib at the end of the buffet, along with all the great vegetables and sweets and desserts and so much more. The chefs are great. They love having tasting events to let you taste what they want to add to the menu. It's the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's football and
in tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue, cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Saw this later this afternoon as we were kind of wrapping up what we're going to do today on the show. Thank you very much for your time. 365 Sports. Please, if you have not yet subscribed, please do. As we say, hit the like button. Also spread the word as we try to continue to grow. So Dennis Dodd had this story on CBSSports.com earlier today. College football playoff redesign could come soon. We know that. Including the idea of supercharged championship Saturday play-ins. So he goes over the possibility that there's going to be a tweak, even maybe possibly next year, and what they do going forward. One format being discussed, and of course everybody's been at the AFCA convention in Charlotte and the national championship weekend in Atlanta. One format being discussed is so-called play-in games during the regular season that would decide at least some of the automatic qualifiers in the field. Championship Saturday could be enhanced by not only the number 1 and number 2 seeds playing for the league title, but teams in the conference below them playing for other automatic bids from the conference. Think of the top 6 teams in, let's just say, the Big Ten. Oregon would play Penn State for the championship. 6th ranked or seeded Iowa would play number 3 seed Indiana, number 5 Illinois against number 4 Ohio State. They would actually, there's an idea that's out there, and again, I don't know, there's probably a ways we could shoot bullets in this. The winner of those 3 games advanced to be a part of the college football playoff. And they would also want some sort of a, well, wait a minute, the number 2 seed loses to the number 1 seed. What about them? Will they then get in before one of the other teams, or is that going to be an at-large berth?
Well, then if they're going to get in, then why are the 1 and 2 teams playing?
Why are you risking Ohio State losing to effing Illinois to get a playoff spot?
It's too much. They're trying to reinvent the wheel.
The 3 winners would advance to the college football playoff. It is not known if or how a 4th automatic qualifier would be added. The 4th team could come from the additional play-in game or merely include the championship game loser.
But why play the game if 3 of the 4 teams are going to make it anyway?
Rich Clark. I've heard rumors of it. I've studied it. I haven't studied it. Ultimately, the Big Ten and the SEC decision on how they play within their conference and a commissioner decision is up to them on how they want to put teams into the playoff.
I mean, like it says in the very first 4 words of this article, first 3 words, it's from last month. We talked about this a little bit, the idea of turning conference championship games into like another de facto mini tournament. So I don't want to hear anything about there's too many games. They're trying to add more games. They're trying to add wild card play-in games to get like a 5th team in for the Big Ten or for the SEC or a second team for the Big 12 or whatever. Yeah, I need more details other than let's slap 6 teams together in 3 games and there's some type of elimination that doesn't make exact sense, that doesn't really seem like it's worth the risk for the Big 10 to have Ohio State teetering against a 6th team in the conference so that maybe Illinois can make the playoff. But yet Ohio State would probably still make the playoff, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I need more details on this, but, I mean, to put it down to its basic, I've seen the SEC champ doesn't even play in the SEC championship game. It's the other 2, and they're playing for it. But the thing is those other 2 are already in too. Let's start off with the fact that, at least 3 teams from 2 leagues are in every single year, no matter what. And you could probably say 4. So who's playing to get a playoff spot? The 5th and 6th teams? Do we really need that? I don't, personally, and I'm one who, will go up against the complaints of there's too much college football and all of that. That to me is not too much college football. It just doesn't make really much sense other than just slapping something together and putting a fancy thing on it and trying to make it draw eyeballs and I don't know. I don't see the point of it when you've already got the advantages that you do. I just don't see the angle here for anybody other than, I mean, I really don't know what. I don't know, other than money, honestly.
Again, why are we playing games when the top teams are going to get in anyway? What does that do?
That is not necessarily, you would think that with Penn State loses to Oregon.
So why would I agree to that if I'm Ohio State and I know that, again, Ohio State, the most consistent, dominant program in the Big Ten. Most consistent of all the Big Ten. So I know that most years that I'm going to be up at the top. And this year they had a little bit of a struggle to get there because they got popped twice in the regular season. And then they went on to win it. Why would I add another, chance to do that? If I had a risk.
There's a possibility that let's just say with those 2 conferences alone, that there would be 4 more games played.
All right, here's my immediate problem with this thing. All right, so in his examples, you have 3 Big Ten games, and you've got your championship game. And both those teams are going to the playoff, undoubtedly. Then you've got 6 versus 3, Iowa versus Indiana. Okay, why? Why are we making Indiana have to play in? And I guess you get somebody in regardless, but would you really want to risk your better team potentially getting upset and then Iowa makes the field? Is that the best playoff field? But they earned it, right? And then Illinois playing Ohio State. I mean, I get just trying to add intrigue. This would certainly add intrigue. This would certainly add, you lose and you're out, but I just don't think they'd be out. If Ohio State lost to Illinois and they're the 3rd best team in the Big Ten, you mean to tell me Ohio State's probably not still getting in the playoff?
Well, but wait a minute. If they're going to get 3 or 4 automatic bids, you have Oregon, Penn State are in, no matter who wins. The winner between Iowa, Indiana in. The winner between Illinois and Ohio State in. And Ohio State in that case would not be any more than 5th if they were to lose that game.
So my point is, so you're telling me the 3rd-seeded Ohio State gets upset in this play-in game and they're still not going to be in the playoff? Of course, what is going to happen? There's going to be an uproar of they were 11-1 during the regular season and the quarterback had a tweaked butt cheek and Illinois beat them and upset them. They still deserve to be in the, that's immediately what I think of. Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is worth kicking around, but this particular format, I just don't think it makes much sense to make the playoff. But I don't know. It's interesting, I guess.
What I wish they could do, and I don't see how they can.
They're trying really hard. It's like the NBA trying really hard to create interest.
The men's, yes, exactly.
Let's change the fields. Let's make it to where turf is camo, and let's do a in-season play-in tournament. And let's do
you win conference tournaments, you're in the tournament. Yeah. You're in the tournament, but there's 68 teams now. You can be really, really good in a regular season and be knocked out one and done. Baylor, the year they won the national title, that happened, right, against Oklahoma State. I think they had a first-round bye in the Big 12 tournament. But you do have to win to get in. But they do have at-large in their 68 teams. So I don't know. To me, that's just muddying up what already is a little bit too confusing.
I think this super convoluted idea. I think there's other ideas you could have. I think this particular idea, though, just doesn't make much sense. I think if you're just trying to create stuff like I said with the NBA, like let's put some 17-year-old artist from LA's design on the Lakers court, and that'll draw eyeballs. And let's do an in-season, regular season tournament for a championship that nobody really honestly cares about, and that'll draw eyeballs. Like, they're desperate. Like, I don't think college football's at that point where they got to gimmick it up when they're already kind of gimmicking it up with the playoff to begin with. Doing a Final Four and doing that, like, I think there's some level of interest there for me, but I just – how did we go from conference championship games don't matter to let's have like 3 de facto conference championship matchups at the end of the year? I don't understand how we went from one place to the other. Let's eliminate the conference championship games was a conversation like 2 days ago. And then now it's Dodd's bringing this back from months ago or last month, but now it's 3 conference championship elimination playoff games. That just seems to be going in the opposite direction. But I do think it's all worth kicking around. I do think the conversation around playoff seeding and all of that needs to continue, but I just automatically see like numerous issues with this particular format.
All right, well, we also never had really, again, you said he brought this up, he brought it back in again today or this week, but maybe it's so weird we're just like, no, we can't do that. Like, whoever would have thought the NFL was going to play 18 games, which they'll do here pretty soon, or that they would have more wild card teams. That in the NBA, you can win a division, but that doesn't mean a damn thing, because they seed it by conferences now. Why do they do that, Paul? Why does the NBA, unlike any other league that I know of, seed their playoffs based on conference seeding rather than if you win a division, you get something extra with that?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know why? Because, and they're the one league that I think went to it, is that, well, it's cyclical. The Western Conference one year was much better than the Eastern Conference, and they had 6 really, really good teams. In baseball, the AL East is usually stronger, but sometimes it might be the Central or somewhere else. They haven't really gone to that. You win a division, you get something out of that. Yeah, I think in every league, I know the NFL you do, you win a division, you could be, who was the team that won the division? The Rams. They were 10-7, but they still were able to get home field advantage because they did win the division. There was something with that. I think this looks almost so far-fetched. You're going, there's no way. There's no way this is not going to work.
I mean, I don't think the NBA is necessarily the guideline to go by either. I
I don't like what they do. I don't like that, but that's why they did it.
Right, but, I mean, I pointed out a couple of the examples. I mean, yeah, it's just trying to stay fresh and probably artsy and stylish and all of that to some extent, but I also think they're the league that clearly is trying to find any gimmick they can to make things remain interesting in the regular season, for their all-star game. Like, the only thing that they aren't, like, trying to figure out how to increase interest in is their actual playoffs. But the regular season is close to meaningless. That's why they had to do an in-season tournament, which I don't even know if that affected the ratings or not. I know it's not made a dent in the casual fan whatsoever, the in-season tournament. And part of that is doing the courts and trying to change it up and drum it up differently and make it feel different and special. And maybe that catches fire. I don't know. But that's not who I would be taking my cues from, because their regular season matters less than probably anybody's in a lot of ways. So that's not what college football needs to follow, because their regular season is far more important. Again, this is one idea of probably a million of them. It's just that you got like 2 sentences in, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This is silly and convoluted. So give me a different example of how you would have elimination-style games. Like, I've seen take the Final Four. 1 plays 4, 3 plays 2, and then those 2 meet the following weekend. But, again, that's more games. So that's going to be a part of the conversation. I just personally, I don't have like a major issue with – I guess maybe I'm just too old in that I don't need you to, like, fancy this thing up. Like, it's pretty clear to me the top 2 teams make their conference championship game. They play. That team's the conference championship winner, whoever wins that game. And then I get you're trying to, like, clear up the rest of the seeding of the playoff based on all of 1 year of example. But this just seems like, again, if Ohio State loses this play-in game, it even says in this, well, it doesn't determine what would possibly happen. So you don't even guarantee that the loser wouldn't still make the playoffs. So what's the point of just getting a 5th team in for the Big Ten? Like, I'm sorry, but me personally, that doesn't interest me. Maybe it interests the Northeast, though. And they would love to see Illinois have that shot at Ohio State so the Illini could become the 5th Big Ten team in the playoff. But for me personally, I could just do without all of that and just let the committee decide the teams and let's argue about it afterwards.
All right, so there we are with that. And just ideas eventually.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are more games played in that format, and it still creates controversy. But it would be great if you could get your 12-team field, whatever it is. If games that you won in a bracket style got you to that, that's another bracket style, but it's hard to do that. And somebody mentioned, well, if you're in this article, if you win your conference regular season championship, all right, I can think of one problem immediately. Not everybody plays everybody because the conferences are so large, 16, 17, 18 teams. Who's going to be decided if two teams go 9-0? Who's your regular season champion if they didn't play each other? So there's always a but maybe as they just keep kind of like playing with a little bit of dough that you could mold something that would make sense.
Yeah, I'm all for being open-minded and tweaking things. I'm not against it. I'm not a stickler for tradition per se, and that's pretty much all out the window at this point anyways. I mean, there's very little of like the older tradition that still even remains. I mean, we're in a freaking 12-team playoff, and after 1 year they're already basically telling you like, hey, it's going to be 14 in the next 2 years. Like they're already telling us that. There's a lot of talk about the conference title games, but I feel like most of the talk's more towards why do we have them versus let's make a mini tournament out of the conference championship games. But I have seen that idea. So, yeah, these will be ideas that get kicked around. And this one, though, I just don't think makes a lot of sense. There's too many holes in this one for me, like I said. So give me some other options, and I'll be open-minded and give y'all my thoughts when those pop up. But this one, I'm a no-go on this particular version.
All right, 420. Okay, sorry about that. 421. We have a lot to get to. We will have, and again, I'm just letting you know because we're going to have to react to it as well. Army quarterback Bryson Daly, Kevin Jennings of SMU, and then Zach Gelb of Infinity Sports Network. We'll see Zach down in New Orleans, and a lot of those guests will be weaving in and out from probably around 4:40 or so until 5:30. I don't know exactly what created Kim Coulter's comment, but I did see this comment, and I do think, and I'm sure it's probably because of all the friendships that he has inside the chat room, but have we gotten to the point now with the way the sports are covered, or is covered, that if you don't win the national championship, nothing else matters? Arizona State doesn't feel that way.
No, I think college football still has a little bit of that innocence where, like, the NFL, I think, for a few teams, you can have some warm and fuzzies if you don't do it because you've been bad for a long time.
If Washington loses to Philadelphia Sunday afternoon, and they're expected to, they're a 7-point underdog or whatever, who knows? But if they lose, does that ruin their season?
No, and I don't think that that's necessarily the case for the teams, but the outside perception, is different along. But, like, if the Eagles don't go and win another Super Bowl, like, they're going to have some fans that are upset. Look, I think it's the longer you've gone without being a championship of how seasons are a failure or not. And, the Cowboys have had 30 years in a row of failure. And some teams have had less in a row.
Yeah, but some of those years that they didn't win in the last 30, there were some years when you could come out of that season and feel pretty damn good about where they were going, right?
I mean, I used to think that, and then that was 10 years ago. But
no, when it happened, like in 07 or Romo early or those kind of years. You didn't come out of it feeling like, man, this is or did you have to? I know the Cowboys have this. I know the Cowboys like Texas. If we don't win the national championship, it's a failure. You've won one in 52 years.
No, that's not my point. My point being is I used to believe that, and then I've now realized I was wrong.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I was wrong to believe it, because the evidence was there. I was just choosing to ignore it, which we do as human beings. But I think college football, like, depending on where you are, like, if you're Ole Miss, how do you feel about this season? Like, give me how do you feel?
I'm not an Ole Miss fan. I think there probably is some. I don't know if there's mass disappointment, but I think that there's disappointment.
Okay. If you're Ole Miss and you gave a lower amount, $10,000 in the Walter Nolan Fund, because you're like, you know what, I got $10,000. I'm gonna throw into the NIL.
Walter Nolan's going to be a first-round pick, right?
Yeah, but like,
what does that do for an Ole Miss?
But what does that do for the guy who paid $10,000?
So you think that because they didn't do what? That it was a disappointment.
That, like, you're going to be disappointed. Like, well, what did I pay my $10,000 for? I didn't pay my $10,000 to have another good season.
Well, I don't think it's
I
just
paid my $10,000. I'm just saying, I'm giving you the lower end. That's like, you missed that first part of it. If I was a guy who on the lower end paid $10,000 in the Walter Nolan Fund because the Rebel Rouser collective said, hey, you can do this. And I'm like, hey, I got $10,000. Let me try to get Walter Nolan. So I throw in my $10,000. I know I'm disappointed. How about the guy that gave $1 million? Yeah. And that, like, he didn't do that for another 9-3 regular season and a bowl win. He did that so they'd be in the playoff, and they weren't.
Yeah, we can't just blanket like everybody. The dude who's paying whatever the fee is, the booster, is paying for a national championship. Mm-hmm. The 21-year-old Ole Miss student's not paying that. He might have thought this was a pretty good year. He had fun. They have two different ideologies when it comes to what's successful or not. So it's not just a question I think you can say in general. It depends on who you are. If you're an Ohio State fan, yes, it's national championship or bust. Mm-hmm. If you're pretty much everybody else, I think this was one of the more interesting seasons we've had in forever for more teams than ever before. I don't know how you could say otherwise. Now, there are years where Arizona State just wins a bowl game and they're the Fiesta Bowl champions, and that's it, and that's a great season, that's an all-time season. And then there's this situation where they lose, and there's a loss at the end of the year. But I don't think that they feel any lesser. Maybe Texas does because they didn't win the whole thing, and that's what my whole point is that it's different. It's different for Texas than it is for TCU. It's different for Ohio State than it is for Indiana. Was this a successful season for Indiana?
Hell yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
hell yeah.
Did they win a playoff game? No. Did they come close to winning a playoff game? No. So, yeah, like I think it's a case-by-case basis, but, yeah, if you're Ohio State, then it's always going to be that national championship or bust, and for a select few schools it will be that way, and it should be because you have more advantages than everybody combined. So that should be your ultimate goal. But I think Texas still had a successful season. It was disappointing at the end, but I still think they had an extremely successful season.
I think they did because of the fact that despite a disappointing way it ended, they now have put together back-to-back years where they are knocking on the door and it's almost open, and that's how you have to keep doing it. Georgia did, Clemson did, Alabama did, right? So I think they're very happy despite the disappointment of not winning the title.
So going back to the question at the very beginning of this, I don't think that the regular season matters less or that the season matters less for most teams. I think there's more opportunity than there's ever been before to make splashes, and there's no, well, they didn't let us in excuse now. You got your shot. You either succeeded with it or you didn't, and there's no one to blame. Now, there is, of course, some teams out there that can say, well, we should have gotten our shot, and there's going to be that every single year. But Indiana never gets a shot before. Ohio State didn't get a shot in this format before until this year. Mm-hmm. So they got their shot, they got their spot at the plate, and they took their big swings and they connected. And so now it's up to the schools, but the schools have more opportunities than they ever did before, rather than just being blacked out of it entirely in some cases. They now get that shot. So, hey, Arizona State, go beat Texas. And if you don't, then shut up about it. You know what I mean? And they're obviously an example that's very unique because of how their game ended, but you got that shot. Would you rather have had it or not had it? I think you'd rather have had it.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So
yeah.
I think the answer to the question is it depends on who you're talking about, but there are select few, and it's very few, like an Ohio State at the very top of the list, that if you don't win it all, I don't think it matters, though. If it's the 12-team playoff, the 4-team playoff, the BCS, that's the case at Ohio State regardless. That's the case at Alabama regardless, mm-hmm. and maybe 2 or 3 others. So I think it's ratcheted up the pressure for a very select few, but it's actually made everybody else have way more opportunity. So I think it's been beneficial in that way more so than a negative. And now everybody around the country is like, Houston fans are going, well, it's national title. No, they're realistic. They know that's not the case.
No.
If you win the Big 12, that's a hell of a year. It doesn't matter what happens after that.
Well, and now the pressure has mounted because now more teams have that opportunity, even the Blue Bloods. Before you had to finish 1 and 2, or you had to finish 1, you had to be number 1 in the AP or number 1 in the UPI or the coaches poll. Then they went to the BCS, so only 2. Then they went to the 14 playoffs. So now some places that already had what were maybe unrealistic but understandable expectations, man, Alabama not making the field, places like that, yeah, that's all right. I'm going to ask Sharice a question because of the chat room. You won the national championship. Will it at all, in any way, shape, or form, if you're an Ohio State fan, still sting because you did not beat Michigan?
I think, once again, it depends on who you are.
I'm asking about Ohio State.
Ohio State fans?
Yeah,
but there's factions, right, within the Ohio State fans. There's the Ohio State fans that believe losing to Michigan is a sin punishable by death.
Okay.
Like that's what they believe. And that's a small part of them. I think most of them will be like, oh, what do you mean? Like, oh, okay, so this arrow that I got shot into me and I thought was going to kill me, this Michigan loss, doesn't matter now? Oh, great. It'll heal. I think most people are reasonable.
I'm going to tell you right now, I know it's not the same thing, but it's pretty close. If Oklahoma won the national championship but they lost to Texas, I wouldn't give a damn about losing to Texas. I really would not give a damn at all. You put that 8th championship trophy in the case, I care about that way more. Now, I understand I'm not necessarily bleeding blue like a Michigan fan where it's all about Ohio State. That's unique to them. And I'm sure there's some fans who don't give a damn because they won the national title, and guess what? They're the national champions now, not Michigan. But I'm sure there's probably some fans who do feel like, yeah, that was great, but they're obsessed with Michigan, and that's all that matters. So I do think it is unique to who you're talking to, but for the most part, I think 9 times out of 10, people would take a national championship trophy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's...
I mean, listen, we've all had teams. All of us have teams that we like, our favorite college team that have dominated college football at one point or another, sometimes multiple times. And there are losses along the way. But if you win the national title, I can get over a loss really quickly. I'm curious about that because of the hatred between those two. I would absolutely still, if I'm Ohio State, yeah, you're kind of like, that, damn it. And then next year when that game comes back around, you start getting a little bit of that face gets hot and red, and you're kind of like, oh, God, we got to beat them. You win a national title, who cares? And you can lose to Michigan and still win the national championship, which also is what's changed because of how many teams were involved.
Hey, I'll just give you a personal example. In 2000, Florida State lost to Miami. And all year long, we were bummed about that. And then we got to play in the national championship game, and they didn't. And I would have totally forgotten about wide right 3. And it wouldn't bother me if not for Josh effing Heupel. But I digress.
Boomer.
13 to 2, baby, in a shootout. 13 to 2. All right, this is 365 Sports. We'll come back. Hopefully, we're about to have a little bit of a back-to-back-to-back segments with some interviews. We will play along and react accordingly as we get them. Garrett Ross running the mothership. Andrew is inside the studio again. He was out yesterday looking for something, right, Paul? He was at a job fair?
He was at the Dallas Stars job fair.
Very smart.
And he was supposed to bring Garrett with him, apparently.
Yeah.
So, because, Garrett would love to be a hockey,
Oh, that's right, because of his hockey. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. We appreciate your time. This is 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. They got a live auction tomorrow. TexasBeefHouse.com with a live auction tomorrow with Wagyu beef. They have a ranch. Really, they have more than one, but they have Angus cattle. And Samantha lives, her house is right on one of those ranches with all the Angus cattle. I've been there before. That's also where they have their the building that has their product. Man, it's sprawling. And then the Duvall family, Dr. Duvall and his wife have their ranch. And then Tyler has his place. It's incredible. And they're having a big auction tomorrow. It's been a couple of weeks. They're having an auction tomorrow. And you can get in it by going to TexasBeefHouse.com or BidOnBeef.com, who runs their auctions. For example, if you want great product, steak, beef, Wagyu steaks, ribeyes, top sirloins, New York strips. If you want that, they have it. Hamburger patties, hamburger beef, ground hamburger. Yes, they have it. And you get to get in and get the, okay, wait a minute, it's $22 a pound for this specific lot that has 4 or 5 items in it. You can get out if it's too much, or you can keep bidding. And if you get outbid, if you get in there and you make a bid, you will get a text, I think it's a text alert, that you have been outbid. And it just keeps going all day long. And at the end of the day, there's this rush to try to get the product. You get to pay what you want to pay for what you want to buy at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
So you start to see a lot of lists. We mentioned the preseason top 25, longest streaks, longest this and that. I found this list on ESPN. Adam Rittenberg and I think David Hale put together a list of the top 100 college football players this past season. The top 100 players. I don't know how you do this. I mean, I know you could say Travis Hunter's 1 or Genty is 2 or whatever else. But it's like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could keep my concentration long enough to be able to do the top 100. But if I asked you, outside of Genty and outside of Travis Hunter, we know the great players like Abdul Carter. We know about some of the quarterbacks. We know about running backs, etc. Here are their top 10. Cam Ward. No, I'm kidding. This is the mock draft. The number 1 player in the country was, yes, Travis Hunter. Number 2, Genty. Number 3, Cam Ward. Number 4, Cam Skattebo. Jeremiah Smith, the freshman receiver, Ohio State, 5. Tyler Warren, the tight end, Penn State, 6. Kelvin Banks, Texas, at number 7. So there we have not the entire top 10, but we have 1 through 7. Others listed in the Big 12 I'll get to in just a moment.
I would want any one of those guys on my like if I was starting the perfect NFL team right now, I'm not nuts about either the quarterbacks necessarily, like to build around, but if you told me I could have just 2 of those guys, and I could have, say, or 3, and I could have Cam Skattebo, Tyler Warren, and Kelvin Banks, and then I'll figure everything else out. I think I could do that as a GM.
Unless you have a bunch of draft
picks.
I
know, but like if that's
unrealistic.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah, you have your left tackle. Mm-hmm. You have your dynamic running back that you feel like is going to transition. And then, of course, you have this multi-dimensional hybrid in Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders was ranked 20th. Tetero McMillan, 28th. Wyatt Milam, the offensive lineman tackle from West Virginia, 52nd. Levitt from Arizona State, 58. R.J. Harvey from UCF at number 70. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa State, 79. Jordan Tyson, Arizona State, 89. Taj Brooks of Tech was number 90. And that's it among the Big 12 in the top 100.
Yeah, I mean, those seem like names that make sense. I mean, those are guys that we've watched a lot of, and they're all really good players. So, yeah, I'd imagine they're pretty highly ranked. Based on what we've seen from them and based on the field that they're competing against, that's a lot of really good players that you just mentioned there that we're going to watch drafted. But, I guess you can argue about the order and the need and all that, but you just named a lot of really good players, yeah.
Which program out of the top 100, again, this is just ranking them with the various ESPN writers. It included Max, Olson, and others, Bill Connolly, Chris Lowe. Of the 100, which school had the most inside the top 100 according to them?
Ohio State.
How many?
9?
10.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
10% of their list. And guess who's not a part of that 10?
Howard?
Quinshon Judkins.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, eventually you got to start ranking some other players in there. Like you've got to put, I'm looking at like Jack Sawyer's in there. Okay. I'm just scrolling through the list really fast. Here's one that
doesn't include Cody Simon,
yeah,
Sonny Styles, or Denzel Burke, who was fantastic.
Yeah. Here's one that you'll hear about a lot here in the next month. It's Mike Green, a defensive end from Marshall, who's coming out in the draft, So you got to get those guys in there who are just, badasses. Noah Williams from Cal, who had 7 interceptions. And because Cal couldn't finish games, he kind of fell into the background. But dude's good, so you got to put those guys in there. So eventually Ohio State's going to run out of spots.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Scatterbo at number 4, I don't know really – I guess just popping around on here, but that's great to see him getting his love, and it's not too little too late. Good to see him get his flowers before he completely moves on to the NFL. It does feel like it's a little too late, though, for probably what he should have gotten, could have gotten, would have gotten, maybe if he played somewhere else or if just more people would have been aware of him at the start of the season. But to be all the way at number 4, clearly that postseason run made a big difference in the eyes of a group of voters who I don't think otherwise have him at number 4. They don't have him at number 4 if they don't win the Big 12, and then they don't go push Texas to the limit. So he clearly made himself some money and gained a lot of new eyeballs and a lot of new fans. So to be only behind Cam Ward and Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter, that's pretty cool. And to be the number 4 overall player in college football, I think that could be debated, but he's definitely right up there. So it's cool to see him getting that love.
Do you feel like that if Scatterbo would have had, I don't know, maybe, do you feel like he got more credit and more respect because he played against Texas, and although a tough start, he got stronger as the game went on?
I think most running backs do. I think that the problem that I think a lot of teams have, like, oh, hey, we can't run the ball. How many carries did you give a guy? 7? Oh, good. Well, how many times we'll use Earl Campbell as an example. How many games did the Oilers win where they only gave Earl Campbell 7 carries?
I would doubt many unless he was hurt. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, again, the running back position, it's not like a wide receiver gets 7 catches on 9 targets. That's a hell of a day, right? Because passing's harder than turning around and running. The old adage is 3 things can happen and 2 are bad with passing. With turning around and running the ball, if you give a running back, if you can do that 25, 30 carries a game or touches or whatever you want to say, it's going to be better. So, yeah, most every back gets better as the game goes on. And Cam Scatterbo, Ashton Genty, guys like that, the more that you feed them and the more that, because they're better athletes than the guy across from them in 99% of the situations, they're going to wear on you. They're just going to wear on you, and when you have to tackle them over and over and over again. And the thing about a running back, he knows where he's going. You don't. So that's maybe mentally draining. So, yeah, they'd all get better as it goes on.
He had nothing right early in that game. Nothing. He had the flea flicker when he threw the pass that looked like a dead duck in the air that they caught that kind of like got a spark going. But he just kept grinding and grinding, and I think gained as much respect in that game as he had against a lot of different games that he played, even if he had run for 180 yards on 20 carries or so and scored 2 or 3 touchdowns. I'm trying to find the highest ranked group of 5 player in with this list. I'm trying to look for the top group of 5 player on this list. I do know this: when we have Eric Galko on at 5:30 from the East-West Shrine Bowl, you have players on in that bowl game from North Dakota State. That's not a surprise. Villanova, Eastern Kentucky, Colorado School of the Mines, Minnesota Duluth. Those are some of the names of the players that will be in that bowl game, which is a great showcase for them to have a chance to show their skills in front of a lot of NFL scouts and analysts.
I mean, that took number 12, Harold Fannin Jr.
The wide receiver, tight end?
Yeah, so Bowling Green.
Yeah.
That didn't take long. He did number 12, Harold Fannin Jr. is the first group of 5 guys. So, yeah, there you go with that answer to your question.
Have you guys seen him play?
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
He's really fun to watch.
Who won the Bolitnikoff Award? Travis Hunter?
Yeah.
I voted for Fannin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, do you look at his numbers?
Yeah. They're nuts. They're nuts. Absolutely nuts.
I hope I'm not getting him mixed up with somebody else.
Well, I mean, he's a tight end, so I voted for him for the John Mackey Award.
Yeah, maybe that was the one I voted for. No, 117 catches, 1,600 yards, and 10 touchdowns. That was who I voted for.
No, you didn't, because the finalists were Tetero, McMillan, Nick Nash, and Travis Hunter.
Nick Nash is who I voted for. San Jose State, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Craig always loves to make sure I'm wrong.
No, I just like being right.
Nick Nash had a big year.
I just want to be right.
Yeah. San Jose State. It's funny. I'm a draft nerd, and I kind of like to throughout the year follow how different draft people have people ranked. Dane Brugler's the best at it because he's not dissuaded by where you're from. He's watching film, but watching people who've never heard of Nick Nash and Harold Fannin, that all of a sudden start watching film and going like, oh, they had him in like the 200, 250 range.
104
and then all of a sudden
catches.
they're like in the top 40 or top 100. Nick Nash probably a little bit lower because people don't realize, but he had like 4 billion catches.
104 catches, 1,382 yards, 16 touchdowns. But he did a lot of that. There was a lot of those underneath throws. His longest catch was 45 yards, but still put up huge numbers at San Jose State. Tetero McMillan's 28th on this list when it comes to the top 100 players. A couple of guys from UT. The first one named from Texas was Kelvin Banks. I mentioned him. Jahdae Barron at 14 on the list according to ESPN. And, oh, by the way, everybody else that could be a part of this list, there's a lot of great names if you want. I'm giving you the ones that were part of the schools from the Big 12 and also otherwise. All right.
Why don't we take a break and see if some of these guys are going to call?
Well, I mean, we can do that. Kevin Jennings just arrived at where he needed to go, then to get to the event at the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award, and also Bryson Daly from Army flew in last night. So we'll come back and hopefully get those guys, and also Zach Gelb and Eric Galko. We're not done. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. Alan Samuels with Ted Teague, General Manager and CEO. Their lot is loaded. I went by there. I drove by there earlier today. I was having to go run an errand on the other side of town, and they always have the Ram trucks. They always have Jeep, the SUVs, and more. And, of course, they have the Wagoneers that are just absolutely fantastic. If you want a car, the Wagoneer, they have different series. The Wagoneers are loaded with all of what you need, including the Wagoneer 3, Series 3 and the Series 3, the Grand Wagoneer. They are special. I've driven one when I've gone on a trip to Florida, as a rental car from Enterprise, and I've also driven one because they wanted me to drive it around and enjoy the experience and the luxury of Wagoneer Series, the Jeep Wagoneers. And, of course, the 7-time Motor Trend Truck of the Year, the Ram truck, which they have at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO, David Gray, manager of new car sales, and a staff that is there if you want to handle a test drive. I went there back in 2020 this summer to look for a new vehicle. My Tahoe, after nearly 400,000 miles, just finally said enough. And so I went there looking for probably a new car, ended up buying a pre-owned car because they have a lot of those too. Really nice pre-owned cars. It's Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live Pep Rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with the Baylor Club membership today.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
We're getting to be part of his family. Kevin Jennings, the SMU quarterback, has been with us multiple times on this show. We're a college football national podcast, and SMU, what a year it's been for them. Kevin Jennings is in Tyler at the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award Banquet. He's one of the finalists, and he joins us, Paul Craig, David Smoak. Kevin, thank you, buddy, young man, for your time. We've had you on many, many times. What does being there, Earl Campbell, the history of what he's meant to Texas football overall, and being a part of this list of finalists mean to you?
Yeah, it's definitely just a blessing for sure. You know, like you said, all the things he did down here and just all the things he contributed to. So, like, it's honestly just a blessing just to be recognized as one of the best, and being able to be here with the guys that's coming in here.
You are very proud to be from Dallas, and you picked a school being in Dallas. So any award that's about being from Texas, I would think, fits right into the Jennings mold.
Yeah, most definitely, for sure. Any award that has to do with Texas or Dallas, I'm down for it, for sure.
Kevin, the season wrapping up a few weeks ago, obviously not ending the way that you guys would have liked, but still an incredible season. How have you yourself kind of just digested everything, maybe reflected on things, learned from things? Just what's the process over the last few weeks been like for yourself?
Yeah, definitely learned a lot, just going throughout the year. And, I think we had a very successful year, but, came up a little short. But just the games that we came a little short, and, just going back, watching film, taking notice of what I could have did different, and to put my team in a better position and all of that. It just, helps out a lot and it's preparing me a lot for next year for sure.
How much of a carrot is that loss to Penn State hanging in front of you even now, or has been already, and what it will be throughout the spring and summer?
Yeah, it definitely sits on me, every day. Every day I think about it and what I could have did different, and, things I could have did better, things like that. So definitely sit on me, but I'm just ready to, look forward to next year and, go after it and prove, I'm better than that and help our team win.
You'll be a redshirt sophomore next year, correct?
Redshirt junior.
Redshirt junior. I'm sorry. So is there a sense, especially around, you've got a lot of other guys coming back there to the team. You've reloaded a little bit when it comes to adding to the portal, and recruiting has taken a step up. Do you feel like something is just getting started at SMU?
Yeah, most definitely. Like everyone says, it's a new Dallas. SMU is coming back bigger, stronger, and better. We're gonna recruit, hit the portal, get to work, and just become a better team throughout the couple of years that we're going at it. So I think every year we're getting better, and this year is going to be a way better season coming forward.
How much better of a player, just with all the experiences you got from start to finish, how much better of a player do you feel like you are now compared to even the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think, just hopping in and, first year as a starter, I learned a lot of things, different things I can reflect on and get better at. So, this upcoming year, I'm thinking I'm way more prepared as going throughout that year that's been a starter. So, way more experience, and you'll see the best version of me for sure this upcoming year.
Kevin, you also were incredibly successful in high school, proud of being from the city of Dallas, and also, as we mentioned, SMU, which is right there. Was there a time when you were growing up, whether it was middle school, junior high, wherever you were, where you had kind of a time where you had to make a decision to go one way or the other to make sure you stayed focused and on target to accomplish the goals you wanted?
Yeah, definitely. Just, seeing guys that, just being there and seeing professionals I'm there working out with, them teaching me things, it, kind of motivated me a lot. Just see, they can do it, and why not me, and why can't I do it? And they just, install things in me, helped me out a lot. So it was definitely a goal set that they helped me set as watching them, become successful, all of that. So, yeah, most definitely.
Kevin, when did you feel that the light started getting brighter for you as the season went on, where it was like, oh, man, this offense can really do some things?
Yeah, first game, we didn't start out too strong versus Nevada, but after that game, I think everything started to click. And also the TCU game, that game was, I think, pretty crazy for us. Everything, we clicked on all cylinders, offense, defense. So I just knew it would be a special team after that TCU game. And, everybody did their job, everybody, contributed, and we put up, over 60-some points. So, yeah, definitely that game right there.
When you think back to the 2024 season, what will be maybe a favorite memory or two of yours when you look back, whether it's a win or just a moment in the locker room? Like, what will 2024, what will come to mind for you almost immediately?
Yeah, just how far we came. Everybody doubted us, coming into the ACC, our first year of play. Nobody thought we could, reach the championship game. So I just said the championship game and how hard our team fought to come back. We was down, 18 points in the fourth quarter, and we came all the way back. So I'm just proud of the team, and how we never gave up, and just proud of the team as a brotherhood. So that's probably one of the moments right there that comes to me.
Kevin, if you ever, and I'm not sure how much you paid attention to the other teams who were trying to get in the playoff, you were trying to take care of your own business, and you got in despite the loss to Clemson. But you did play BYU. It was early in the year. Mm-hmm. How much respect did you gain from of them for how good they were? And did you ever think that, hey, man, these guys should be a part of this too at any time?
Yeah, definitely. BYU was a great, very talented team that we played against. They gave us our first L of the year. So, I was kind of confused, honestly, why they're not there with us. They beat us early in the season. They shouldn't be in the talks. But, everybody doubted them as well. But, they fought throughout the whole year, and they finished out very strong with Colorado. So, they should have definitely been in the playoffs for sure.
What did you guys – kind of because you won your first ACC game, kind of squander the chance to sneak up on the new conference? And they just knew, these guys are not to be messed with.
Yeah, I think this was our mojo coming in, that we're not to be messed with. We tried to set that, early on in the ACC play, but, we started at Florida State and just continued to go on through there. And, I think we showed everybody what we're capable of this year, and I'm excited to continue next year and just show everybody again.
Hey, Kevin, have you ever met Earl Campbell?
No, sir, I haven't.
What's that going to be like to meet Earl? Because he's going to have that little smile, and what's that going to mean for a young kid from Dallas in Texas?
Yeah, definitely a lot of excitement. Meeting the legend, meeting one of the greats. It's going to be a lot of excitement. Honestly, might be a little starstruck, but just excited to meet him, though. Excited to meet that guy.
Thank you, buddy. Good luck tonight. Enjoy the banquet. SMU quarterback Kevin Jennings in Tyler for the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award, which is, of course, going to start a little bit later on this evening. He's one of 5 finalists. Juggling whether we'll get Bryson Daly. Let's go to Zach Gelb because we have him on right now, and we could always go back and forth because Zach's got something he's got to be at 5:25. Bryson Daly, Kevin Jennings, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and also Ashton Jeanty are finalists tonight for the Campbell Award. That's a pretty damn good list with those ties to Texas, Zach.
Yeah, and some of the better storylines, really, of the college football season. I loved watching Bryson Daly play, Ashton Jeanty. I thought he should have won the Heisman Trophy, even though I love watching Travis Hunter play. And, man, the quarterbacks, they're going to be a big story, obviously, as we always get ready for the NFL draft. So pretty damn good list.
Zach, how are you doing emotionally after having to watch Ryan Day win a national championship?
You know what? I will even admit it. Seeing the way that his players embraced him afterwards, I'm not going to say, it made me all warm and fuzzy, and now I'm like, look at the Ohio State Buckeyes. I wanted to see Notre Dame come back and win that game, but I'm okay with Ohio State winning, and now I think the conversation's interesting because people that said, like I was one of them, I'm like, okay, if Ohio State, if they don't win a national championship, and I remember saying this, and they got to get rid of Ryan Day because they lost to Michigan 4 years in a row. And, right, the standard there is to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and then win the national championship. Well, they didn't get the first 2, but then the last one does obviously trump the other 2. So he's going to be their guy now for the foreseeable future. Probably most of these preseason polls, when you look at coaching rankings, he'll be in the top 3. But it's going to come back up if he doesn't beat Michigan. But, good for him. He got the job done. And those last 4 games was really impressive, and it showed the leadership that he brings to that program because that team looked like they were mentally fried after the Michigan game.
Zach, if you don't mind, because I know you've got, but if you don't mind, just hold on for a second. Bryson Daly is joining us. You want to ask him a question? You want to ask the Army quarterback a question?
Bryson Daly, I've talked to him before. He's one of my favorite players in the country, but I'll let you guys do the interview. I've talked to Bryson before. No worries.
Yeah, we have too, but we'll come back to you if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Okay. Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network. Army quarterback Bryson Daly from Abernathy, Texas. A great story, and what a year it was for the cadets. Bryson, thanks for your time. What's it like to be in that setting tonight, to be a part of the finalists for the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award?
Yeah, first off, thank you guys for having me on. Always a pleasure talking to y'all. This is an absolute honor getting to, share this opportunity with some really good players. Kevin Jennings just walked by, great player, watched him in the playoffs. So just getting to be, mentioned with guys like that, it's pretty special. And then Earl Campbell, I grew up a Texas fan, so was a big fan of his. So it's just an absolute great opportunity, and I'm honored.
Bryson, could you bring all of Abernathy with you tonight? Could you fit him in the room?
I think they'd all fit in this room right now. Yes, sir.
You burst on the scene this year. What was it like for the world to see what it's like when something comes together for that Army football team?
Yeah, it was extremely special. Like you said, it just all came together. A combination of, first year offense coordinator coach, Cody Worley, he's my quarterback's coach the whole time I've been here. Him coming in and just being awesome all year long. Coach Woody is defensive coordinator. They played great all year. And then just the players that we had, the best O-line in the country, great running backs, great slot backs, guys who blocked their tail off all year. Perfect storm really came together, and I was just extremely grateful to be a part of that.
Bryson, we're in a time with college football right now where there's a lot of questions about, like, is it national championship or bust, or do bowl games matter, and, like, all of these, like, kind of existential questions. How much did that matter to you and to the team to go out and get a win at the end of the season, win a bowl game, and go off in that fashion?
Yeah, we were a team that was extremely hungry to make it to the postseason. 2 straight years not being able to do so. Going 6-6 those 2 years, not getting to go to a bowl game. We were extremely hungry for postseason play.
and we were very lucky to get 2 opportunities with the conference championship game and the bowl game. So in both of those games, extremely fired up to get to play those one last, time with our brothers. So it was awesome that we got to, go to that bowl game, go to that conference championship, and, just get extra games with, the guys around you that you love.
You had a chance to play Notre Dame. They played for the national title. I know that obviously they didn't win. Ohio State did. When you played them, what do you remember about the Irish?
I remember they hit me a lot. Those are some of the biggest human I've ever been around. Number 99, that D tackle that sadly was hurt for them in the playoffs. Who knows what would have happened if they'd had him too. But they were an incredible team, played extremely hard. But it was an awesome experience getting to play those guys, getting to play some of the best. And, it was cool watching them, win games in the playoffs. And, we were rooting for them to win it all. But it was a great opportunity to get to play them.
Bryson, take us through what your next few months look like. I know it's different for guys that play for the military academies. I know that there's sometimes you can do professional sports, sometimes not. What is the path for you right now?
So for me, I'm just getting ready for our infantry basic officer course. I'll commission as officer in May. So, I started working out more like a soldier than a football player, a lot more long distance running and stuff like that. But it's really just, getting the body right from a long season, trying to get into running shape and just get ready for the Army.
Go ahead, Craig.
What does it mean to be the FBS record holder for touchdowns by a quarterback? Is that something that was ever kind of a goal, or when did that come in play for you? And what does it feel like to be at the top of the history books?
I did look at records, at the start of the season, but that was one I never looked at. I'd looked at our team record, which was 17 by Ahmad Bradshaw. So I was mainly looking at records like that. And, we're halfway through the season and I get Ahmad's record at 17. And I was like, well, what's the next one we're looking at? And so it really kind of surprised me that we got there, and it kind of just happened. And that's, due to the O-line I had and the guys around me. But, it was pretty cool being able to get that.
There is talk in college football about how they could change up the scheduling, how they could maybe play playoff games earlier and not get too much into the NFL postseason because of the number of eyeballs that they get. There has actually been an idea. I don't like it, but you play in the game. Army-Navy to start the year. Would that be blasphemy in some way for the Army and Navy programs?
I think so. That's I don't like that at all. And I'm sure anyone from Navy would say the same thing. That game's meant to be played, in the cold, the end of the year. Both teams are thinking about it all year long. So I hope that doesn't get changed. But I also hope it gets somehow moved to where, playoff selection, stuff like that comes after that game. Because that, both teams are very good this year, and, that could have swayed either way. So I hope that gets changed in the future.
Do you think that the game should be by itself and they shouldn't play any other games that same day?
I do. Yeah. And obviously that's a biased answer. I have more interest in that than maybe some others do, but I think it's deserving of its own day. Whatever needs to happen for college football and the playoffs to happen,
You can you give us really a sense? I don't know if you can unless you've been to the game as a fan or somebody who's been in an academy or a military academy. What is that day like for you to be a part of that, the pageantry, the royalty, and the tradition?
Honestly, the day of the game is, not a whole lot different than any other, except for just the built-up pressure. And, it's the biggest game of the year. But really, probably the week or two leading up to it is, especially the bye week before that we normally have. We didn't have it this year because of the conference championship, but most years that bye week before is just full of media stuff and, people talking to you and doing stuff at the school. And that's where you kind of, start getting that pressure built, 2 weeks out for the game.
All right, I know you got to go because you have other media obligations, but you're there for the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. You've mentioned you're from Texas. He's one of the great names ever. I just asked Kevin Jennings, had you ever met Earl Campbell prior to tonight?
I've not. No, sir.
What is it going to mean to you with the legend, Heisman Trophy, multi-MVP in the NFL, and just the man that he is?
It's going to be incredible. Obviously, he's a guy I looked up to. I did a fourth grade project about him, made a poster board, Tyler Rose. I had all his stats, and I hung it up in my room after. Big fan. So very excited to meet him, a Texas legend. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great night.
You mentioned you're getting back now, getting ready for what your next part of your life is going to be as a cadet. We love you for doing what you do and representing what you represent, being a part of the academy and the military, and helping defend our country, man. We appreciate you so much and what you represent.
I appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for the support. Great talking to y'all. Thanks for having me on the show.
Abernathy's Bryson Daly, Army quarterback, with us. He was on with us about 2 months ago when Army was having their great run. We had Brian Newberry, the head coach at Navy, on with us, too. He's one of the finalists for the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. Back to Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network. You had him on. He just looks like that's the face of who you want to defend the country.
It's unbelievable. You saw what he does, obviously, on the football field, but then knowing the commitment away from the football field, just all the respect in the world for Bryson Daly.
So, Zach, going back to Monday night, Ohio State was able to put their stamp on this thing. Notre Dame fought back a little bit. What do you think about Marcus Freeman? How long do you think he'll be at Notre Dame, and what do you think that their at least short-term future is?
I would say that if they could get back within the next 2 years into the Final Four of the college football playoff, I'd be very impressed. I look at Notre Dame, as Marcus Freeman showed, you can win a national championship there this year, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be in the national championship game next year. But the way the playoff is designed in a 12-team format, it's designed for Notre Dame to get in. So if they got in after losing to Northern Illinois back in week 2, you could afford probably to have up to 2 losses, as long as they're like 2 quality losses. If you lose to Northern Illinois, then you probably have to win out like what they did. So in terms of his future, I don't think he's leaving Notre Dame to take another college job. Maybe down the road, if eventually Ryan Day left, because that is his alma mater, maybe he would go to Ohio State. But I would say that he's probably, if he's in college, it's at Notre Dame. If not, I do think that the NFL jobs are going to be calling. I think he can coach in the NFL, and the NFL right now is an easier lifestyle than what it is being a college coach.
So I'm going to do what a lot of reporting's already done. How do you feel about 14 teams, Zach?
Hate it. I would not do it. Do I expect that it will eventually happen? Of course, because everyone's greedy in the sports world. I don't think that they should have gone to 12 teams. Now, did it end up working? Absolutely. You can do whatever we want to us when it comes to football. We've seen a lot worse things happen, and we're all suckers, and we end up watching. But I would say keep it at 12. I think that they'll eventually expand it. Personally, I thought it should have only, if they were going to expand it to 8. But no, I would not want to see 14. I think that would be a mistake. But ultimately, they have us by the you-know-what when it comes to football, so it doesn't really matter what they do.
Would you like to see more than one network broadcast the entire college football playoff bracket, or does that matter to you?
It doesn't matter to me. If they want to give me a fat paycheck and have me call games, sure. Put the game on the Mars network. It doesn't matter to me. What I will say, though, in terms of changing when it comes to college football, and I said this when the format, I started to understand it, I would not guarantee a conference champion, like the 5 Power 5 conference champions, 4 of them get a bye spot. I would just say you're guaranteed a home game. And I don't think this will happen, because I know the sponsorships in the bowl games, if you get a bye, I do think you should get a home playoff game too. So I would like to see, right, when you get into the Final Four, that's when the big bowls end up starting. But I just know from a dollars and cents standpoint, that's not going to happen.
What are your thoughts when it comes to teams that didn't make it, but now more people know about them? South Carolina, Iowa State, UNLV, among others. The numbers of teams that had a chance that didn't get in get a little bit out of this anyway.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how we're talking about South Carolina next year. Full disclosure, I like Shane Beamer a lot, and I know he could rub some people the wrong way. And you have Lenora Sellers coming on back, which is massive. Now can you go take that next step? Because you were in the mix this year. Now can you go maybe be in an SEC championship game? Can you get into the college football playoffs? So I think they are definitely compelling. And then you look at a team that didn't make it. Now they don't need no introduction, but that's Alabama. I love Kalen DeBoer. I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach. We saw what he was able to do at Sioux Falls, and we saw what he was able to do at Fresno State and taking Washington to a national championship game. But them missing out on the college football playoff this year is unacceptable. He knows that. And now in year 2, you're going to have to make it, or else there's going to be serious questions about the future of Alabama football.
All right, let's go to the NFL. Zach, Aaron Glenn to the Jets. I love the hire. I think the question about the Jets, though, is can the owner and his kids stay out of the way?
Yeah, with Brick and Woody Johnson. So I'm fine with the hire. I know some Jet fans will say, well, we just did the defensive coordinator. That was the big guy in Robert Saleh, and that didn't work. So I understand why Jets fans say that. But I think most people say, oh, he's one of our own. He was on the staff years ago, played for us, obviously, or played for the Jets, I should say. Obviously, maybe a Patriot fan. I'm not a Jet fan. But anyway, you get the point there with Aaron Glenn. And the big talk now is that the belief is, and a lot of people said that they thought Woody Johnson did not want Aaron Rodgers back. Supposedly, Aaron Glenn wants Aaron Rodgers back. So I don't think Aaron Rodgers takes the job if he doesn't have the owner say, okay, I'll be open to bringing back Aaron Rodgers. But it's also another part of the conversation. Does Aaron even want to come back, and does he want to play football next year?
Zach, I just want to know your thoughts on the Commanders, man. I'm a Commanders fan. This has been a long time coming. Just how impressed are you by what you've seen? Because I know that it was going to be a good season up until last weekend, but I don't know how many people anticipated this thing would still be cooking a few days later.
I think the Eagles win, but they're alive. If that's a close game in the fourth quarter, all the pressure goes to Philadelphia. I feel like Philadelphia is going to win the game 27-20. But I'm so happy for Commanders fans because that was a fan base that had no direction, no hope. It was once a proud franchise, and there was great apathy. I remember going with one of my college buddies to a Patriot, at the time, I think they were called the Washington football team at the time, game, and there was like no fans of the home team there. There was more Cowboys fans there, and the Cowboys weren't even playing in the game. So to see that franchise come back, make a return, you get that POS, I'll say that nicely, and Daniel Snyder out of the building, Josh Harris in, and then Jaden Daniels taking over. They hit on the quarterback, and when you hit on the quarterback, you go to the outhouse to the penthouse real quickly, so it was neat to see.
Yeah, and to do it so quickly, and here we are with the Cowboys looking for a new head coach, and a lot of players on Washington were with them, Dan Quinn with them, Joe, the defensive coordinator, Joe Witt with them. It's been amazing.
Yeah, and the Cowboys are a mess. All right, if they hire Brian Schottenheimer, by the way, I had Bobby Carpenter say this to me yesterday. Hiring Brian Schottenheimer is just trying to find the middle ground with Mike McCarthy and then also with Jason Garrett. Now, let me be clear here. Mike McCarthy's a damn good coach, right? He was. But if that's what you're trying to find the middle ground of Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett, let's just be real. Jerry Jones runs his organization based off drama and power, and it's nothing to do with winning football games.
The quote I like to use, I don't know if you're a fan of Succession, Zach, but towards the end, Brian Cox said to the three kids, I love you, but you are not serious people. And that's what Cowboys fans are saying to the Jones family right now. I love you, but you are not serious people.
Yeah, it's a joke. Like, I think we said everything that we could say about the Cowboys. There's a reason why they haven't been to an NFC championship game or a Super Bowl since 1995. And let me tell you something. You know who's on my S list today? Shad Khan. Holy smokes. Can you find a owner right now? Like, I know there's a lot of incompetent owners, but you could have had Ben Johnson, and then you bring Trent Baalke back, and then you think you have Liam Cohen in your back pocket, and he goes, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to work with Trent Baalke. Everyone told him Trent Baalke should not have been back as the GM. Everyone knew that but Shad Khan. And now, since you're not that attractive of a job, which, by the way, I thought they were a very attractive job before I knew Baalke was coming on back, but all the candidates are like, no, and you would have got Robert Saleh at best. Now you get rid of Trent Baalke. What a backwards organization, and that's why incompetent organizations just always make incompetent decisions. It's Shad Khan. Geez, he has a good mustache. Not a good owner, though.
I know you have things to get to. I saw your note about Ben Johnson Cohen is now Ben Johnson for this year upcoming because of that. Hey, thanks for helping me get in touch with Michael. Is Michael, right? Your producer? Is that right? He's been great. Thank you for getting me in touch with him for what we see in New Orleans. And
someone's got to say he's great. You said it, not me.
I will tell him that you said it too. Thank you, man. Zach, thanks for bouncing back and forth with us. Have a great night. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Always a blast. Thanks.
Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network with us. And so, Kevin Jennings, SMU, Bryson Daly, Army, and then Zach Gelb from Infinity Sports Network. Garrett, Paul, you had to make a couple and take a couple of those calls. Well done. Thank you very much for doing that. And just around the corner, Eric Galko, we've had him on forever, and he's now running the East-West Shrine game. He will join us at the bottom of the hour. I got a story. Where did Larry Allen play college football?
Sonoma State.
Gary Patterson coached there once, too. I think he was on staff there. They are cutting their entire athletic program because of a huge deficit.
Well, that's a bummer for the athletes.
Christy Dosh, who we've had on before.
That's a bummer for the athletes that are there. Really is. Hope they all find places to go. That's just a bummer.
$23.9 million budget deficit, and the university said it threatens the entire long-term viability of the institution. So I looked at it, Sonoma State. Normally, that's Larry Allen, the Hall of Famer who died way too young, like most anyone does. But he was a graduate from Sonoma State, and a great player.
I doubt athletics is the cause of their deficit. I'm sure it probably didn't help, but
here it is. Rising personnel cost and inflation, but particularly a steep decline in enrollment, 38% drop since 2015.
Yeah. College, this is part of a larger conversation that really doesn't have as much to do with athletics, but college in America has to figure out what it needs to be in the 21st century, because it's not a modern model, and it's gotten way too expensive to go for a lot of people.
Way too expensive.
It's way too expensive
Ridiculous.
to go. And then, you're hearing from an English lit major here right now, but we have to make high school and college work well together if you want to be in college. Also, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you started, maybe putting some trade schools in these colleges, because we need those kind of workers. And there's plenty of people out there that think that there's some sort of stigma that's bad if you don't go. Well, why don't you put a trade school in your college, and then I can go to Texas A&M to be an engineer, you can go to be a welder, and we can work together. And we both went to Texas A&M and learned something that's valuable to society.
No, we got to raise costs because we got to sign the wide receiver next year.
Yeah, well, and
that's what you're starting to see in some of the bigger
And here's
schools.
the thing: I don't even think athletics is one thing. This is about.
No, Sonoma State's a separate thing. It's not. I'm sure somebody will try to make it that though, because politics or something. But no, this is not just that. It's just the easy cost-cutting measures to cut athletics.
That's exactly that's the easiest thing.
Easiest thing to say, all right, we're done with that, moving on. We're still a school, and we just don't play sports. So what? It's not the end-all, be-all. But, yeah, that's unfortunate for the athletes that were there and
coaches
and all those involved with that. But, yeah, I do think college itself does have a little bit of a reckoning that's on the horizon, if not here, that they're going to have to deal with. But, yeah, that won't stop Ohio State or whoever else from – telling it no, man, really this time we got to have the money, though. I know we've asked you and 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 asked you, and every time you give us, we're no, really, though, we need it this. So, not everybody can do that, certainly. And, again, that's not all athletics related, but still sad to see nonetheless.
I agree. And it's just always something else. I saw some of the letters that were written by ADs and presidents and whatever else about needing more in this day and age of where we are with college athletics, and it just gives me a mush head thinking about it. All right, real quickly, tonight Baylor hosting Jerome Tang and K-State. They're in need of a win. Scott Drew and his team in need of a win after the loss on Sunday to TCU when they just melted down and were just outplayed by the Frogs. Last night, Arizona State beat West Virginia. West Virginia, of course, had just beaten Arizona. Who was it over the weekend? Pretty good team. I think it was.
Arizona State is coached by the tolerable Hurley.
Yeah, of the two. Texas Tech and Grant McCasland are 4-0 on the road in the conference, beat Tennessee by 10. Iowa State bludgeoned UCF. Arizona beat Oklahoma State by 14, and BYU late last night beat the Buffaloes 83-67. Also tonight at 6, Utah on ESPN Plus against number 7 Houston, and also tonight at 6 on ESPN 2, the first of a doubleheader, Kansas at number 12 playing at TCU, followed by that Baylor game against Kansas State. And tonight at the Foster Pavilion, they will anniversary, the 98th anniversary of the Immortal 10 pregame banner display, unveiling, replica banner giveaway to the first 1,000 fans. I know a lot of you who are around the country. 10 seats displayed on the concourse in the memory and honor of the Immortal 10. That was the railroad, the train crash that took away way too many. All right, when we come back, we will see. Eric Galko, he's on with us now. Can we break or not? Yeah, we're supposed to have him to give it. Let's take a break real quick. Eric Galko, I think he can wait. East-West Shrine Bowl, he's next. This is 365 Sports. Ideal. MRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners, they're wonderful, absolutely phenomenal, and what they have is an incredible business because they win, you win. Your doctor wins. You win when it comes to budget. An MRI average is about $1,100. At Ideal MRI, it is $497 or less, and it's been that way for as long as I can remember when they opened their doors in the Central Texas marketplace in Waco. Also, they have a state-of-the-art imaging machine. It is phenomenal. I've been in it 4 different times. Once for my abdomen, once for my shoulder, once for my lower back, and then again for my lower back. Your doctor recommends an MRI. With Ideal MRI, they will get it done. You will save money. You'll get the images, and so will your doctor in the portal. And then you can then move forward to try to figure out what the pain is and why it's there. IdealMRI.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
When you work with a bank, you should expect the best of everything. That includes face-to-face personal service and the kind of community banking care that only comes from one neighbor to another. That's exactly what you'll get from the First National Bank of Central Texas, where you will know your banker works just as hard as you do. Once again, that's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Settle for nothing less than the first. Member FDIC.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Bud Light. Enjoy the smooth, crisp taste of Bud Light beer. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
All right, I got an email from Tony Fay and his group, which is a fantastic public relations, media relations group. I've known Tony forever. And they said, hey, would you like to have Eric Galko on your show? Oh, East-West Shrine Bowl. Like, we don't know who that is. But we do. There he is on camera. Eric, we've had him on many times before about the draft. He is 100 miles an hour and now running the 100th East-West Shrine Bowl, and he has in recent years. Man, good to see you. How you been, young man?
I'm doing great. We are a day away from our players arriving, from guys like Shedeur Sanders and Kenneth Grant and a lot of first-round picks. The guys might be the next Brock Purdy, so we're excited to get our week started.
Eric, you have, again, like Shedeur Sanders is probably, we'll start with him.
Yeah.
He is, if he gets past what pick, would that shock you?
I have a hard time thinking that, for one, we saw last year quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3, and then every quarterback needy team after that immediately took their guy. And I think we're in an age now in the NFL where you can't let good quarterbacks pass you by. So it's hard to answer that question for sure, but it'd be hard to imagine the Titans, Browns, Giants, and Raiders passing on him, not to mention teams that may trade up. So, again, the over-under might be pick 1.5, and maybe this week at the Shrine Bowl, on or off the field, can really help that piece of the process. But again, no doubt, I think the over-under is 1.5, and maybe at worst 2.5, 3.5, because he's that special of a player and a person.
Eric, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. After that, where does your mind go when it comes to this quarterback class?
I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think last year we were spoiled by guys like coming into the year, Caleb Williams and Drake May coming into the year. Were looked at as like they're going to be franchise guys no matter what. And then we saw a historic season from Jaden Daniels, a great year from Michael Penix and Bo Nix. Really a lot of guys emerge. And I think this year, guys such as Kyle McCord, who's going to be here at the Shrine Bowl, kind of left Ohio State, went to Syracuse, had a fantastic year. I think he's going to ascend this draft process. Quinn Ewers, right, a great year, a lot of public speculation and spotlight on him up and down games, but he's really well liked by NFL teams. So I think those two guys at the top are going to be there. But I think we'll have 3 or 4 other guys battling for that number 3 spot. And I bet one of those guys at least goes in round 1. Too many teams still need quarterbacks. You mentioned the teams at the top of the draft, but also the Seahawks for what their next plan may be at quarterback. The Rams in the post-Matt Stafford era. Teams like that, the Steelers that are picking the back end of the first round also need quarterbacks too. So I think we'll see 3, maybe 4 go in the first round. But who number 3, number 4 are, I think the next 3 months will decide that.
Eric, there's a lot of things that go on between now and the draft, and you digest it, and I don't know how you don't get heartburn because you put so much into your system when it comes to the draft and prospects. What is the most important thing that a prospect, no matter big name or not, needs to do this weekend to catch attention?
I tell players all the time as I kind of prepare for this week, and NFL teams have watched these guys play on film for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years for some of these guys now with the new rules. And they've talked to their coaches and they've seen practice and they've seen live games. They haven't talked to these guys yet, right? Exactly 0 NFL GMs have talked to 0 players in this draft cycle. And this week is a chance for these guys to build really that first in-person expression, right? You can see these guys on film. You can watch Shedeur Sanders or Kyle McCord or Garmin Randolph, who's now coming to the Shrine Bowl from Baylor, be here and watch him on film and see how impressive he is. But talking to him can be a huge difference between a guy being a free agent and a draft pick, a late round pick to an early round pick, a third round pick to a first round pick. I've seen it every year, and I think the interview process is so important for these guys.
This is a fantastic year for running backs in the draft, and the NFL might be discovering an area that they have ignored because they let contract math get in the way of how football works, right? That's how it appears to me. Ashton Genty, Scadaboo, Amarian Hampton, you've got some really good ones. Like Corey Kiner, I believe, is at the game. Like, where do you see the running back class, and do you see this one being more maybe 1 or 2 day 1 picks and then kind of a bunch of day 2 picks at that position?
Yeah, I think for one, first off, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs are good running backs. And I think sometimes you just want to have those good running backs in your team is always going to be a positive. And I think guys like Ashton Genty are really special. I think he's the one that jumps out to me as the guy that feels, hey, he can change the focus of our offense. I think too often we look at running back as this devalued position. But in my opinion, Saquon Barkley is the best player in the Eagles offense, and you want guys who be the best player in your offense. I think Genty can be that. But I think this year, like we've seen the last couple of years, the guys that can really win in open field, which I think guys like Genty and Amari and Hampton can really do, but also on third down out of the backfield. And we've seen so many running backs be valued and pushed up because of out of the backfield. And one guy I'll kind of throw in the ring that's one of those top 4 or 5 guys in this class is a guy coming to the Shrine Bowl, Jaden Blue from Texas, who I think is an outstanding out of the backfield running back. And we're seeing more and more offensive coaches not only use a running back out of the backfield, but rely on them to run their offenses. And I think as you evaluate these running backs in this year's draft class, how they do as a pass blocker or an interior tough is good, but also how they do out of the backfield as a receiver is so important in today's NFL.
A couple of Big 12 running backs that you have on the roster there for the Shrine Bowl, Eric. Taj Brooks at Texas Tech, big-time player. Also, Corey Kiner, Cincinnati. If you wouldn't mind, just your thoughts on both of those guys and just, where they sit and where they're headed.
Yeah, Corey Kiner, big-time recruit coming out of the state of Ohio. Went to LSU for a year, came back to Cincinnati, and had an incredibly productive last 2 years. I think for NFL teams, hey, if Corey Kiner's speed is good enough, he is viewed as a guy that's a plug-and-play, either number 2 or even running back 1 for some NFL teams. The speed checks out. I think he'll show that speed during the week of practice, but incredibly productive, powerful, compact interior runner that can play in the NFL tomorrow. And then Taj Brooks. I mean, he's done everything at Texas Tech the last 2-3 years. Should have been up for more of a Doak Walker consideration the last 2 seasons, but coming out of Texas Tech, he's a guy who's been running between the tackles, runs in space, and again, as we talked about, he can really work out of the backfield, both as a pass blocker as well as a pass catcher consistently too. So I think both those guys are draft picks, and now showing NFL teams that their ability to make guys miss and be physical players inside the tackle box can translate to the NFL level. They'll show that this week and throughout the draft process.
The game is January 30th. It's the weekend in between the NFC and AFC championship games and, of course, the Super Bowl, which is wonderful. AT&T Stadium in Arlington, 100th edition. And it's great because you were there, you were a part of it, and then you now run it. Is that right, Eric? I mean, this is your baby.
Yeah, I've been going to all-star games as a scout and for part of it as part of a media for going on 20 years. And now I'm here for the last 4 years leading the East-West Shrine Bowl. And what an incredible event. I'm so thankful and honored to be part of the 100th year of this event. We've had in 100 years of history from Gerald Ford to John Elway to Dan Marino to Mean Joe Green and all the way back and forth. We announced our annual 100th celebration year and all the players that are part of this event too. And it really is special to have some of the guys we've had the last couple of years now be a part of history. And we'll look back another 100 years and talk about Brock Purdy and Zay Flowers and people like that from just my last 4 years too. But being a part of the history of this event where for a majority of the 100 years, this was the creme de la creme of all-star games in college and a huge, huge event. And we're excited to make it a big deal again this year at AT&T Stadium for our 100th year.
There are, and there's a lot of guys, but there's 3 of my favorite players, and they're all some variation of receiver. Rondé Gadsden Jr. at tight end, Nick Nash at wide receiver, and Ricky White. A lot of, maybe people haven't heard of him. Ricky White is an NFL player. I don't know if he's going to be a wide receiver or just special team. Dude blocks punts. Can you talk about those guys a little bit?
Yeah, I'll start with Ricky White. I love that you bring up the special teams piece of it too, because Ricky White, I think going tomorrow in the NFL, I think he blocked 3 punts this year or 4 punts this year, something crazy. He's an NFL player and on your roster no matter what next year. But I think we forget that also, despite they may be a skinnier guy, he's been productive at UNLV. He's been a leader for that team. Remember that team had some, I'll say, quarterback drama to start the year, and Ricky White stepped up and took a leadership role too. So I know going through the draft process, and again, really starting here at the Shrine Bowl, GMs will talk to him and learn his story and be like, this guy can make our receiver room better, not just in stats, but in everything he can do for us. I think it's a great call out really by you. Nick Nash, the guy won the Triple Crown of receiving in college, right? Receptions, touchdowns, and yards. He led the country in all 3. And he's a guy who just about 4 years ago was playing quarterback in college. So he's still new to the position. And despite all that production, he's still growing as a player. Super, super impressive too. And then Rondé Gadsden. Dad played in the league for a long time as a receiver. Gadsden's kind of a tight end receiver hybrid. What he brings to an NFL team is actually very similar to what I think Mike Gesicki brings to NFL teams, where be a matchup guy, play in line, play outside, but inside the red zone, inside that 10-yard line at the goal line, Rondé Gadsden is the best receiver in this draft class, bar none, because what he can do as a one-on-one player. And
these are NFL coaches who are coaching them throughout once practices begin, when everyone arrives, and then all the way to the game. Is that very, very much important because they understand what the NFL is looking for?
Yes, sir. It's a chance for our coaches that are coaching in this game to get development, and they're all doing one job ahead. So we've got Marquise Williams, the Atlanta Falcons special teams coordinator. He's a head coach. And then Shane Bowen, New York Giants defensive coordinator, is another head coach. And all our other coaches are doing one step ahead. So they get that great development and show other teams and coaches how they can handle that responsibility. Our players get a chance to work with current NFL coaches and learn from them and see what the NFL is going to be like. And then, of course, those teams having coaches here get a little extra insight. The Tennessee Titans assistant QB coach is working with Shedeur Sanders. I'm sure that's going to be a little wrinkle he can bring to the table too. So it really helps everyone involved, and they've been great to work with. All these coaches are taking time after what was a long season for all these guys, a non-playoff season, and come down here to Dallas, support the hospital, be here for 100th year, work with these players. It really means a lot to us.
Eric, BYU had a surprising year for a lot of people. I mean, just kind of came seemingly out of nowhere towards the back of the preseason standings and arguably should have been a playoff team. You've got a Cougar there and Tyler Batty, who is a guy who a little bit older, he stuck around and came back and was a big part of that run. What do you like about Tyler Batty and just coming from that very respectable program run by Kalani Sitake?
Yeah, I think the guys coming out of that program the last even decade, but especially the last couple of years, are so pro-ready, right? They can handle life in the NFL and play tomorrow. I think Tyler's going to be that for sure. I think for NFL teams, it's not about if he fits their system, but what role they're going to need him for, right? He can play 3-tech or 4-tech. He can play in a 3-4 defense down. He's played on the edge at the college level and been productive. So I think for him, he's a versatile guy. He can play a lot of different spots for NFL teams. Leadership is going to be really impressive. But if you guys follow the All-Star games, those one-on-ones, O-line, D-line, over all the GMs too. I think a good week here for him in that sense will make a lot of difference for him.
How intense does that get, those one-on-ones during practice week?
Yeah, I try to help our guys not feel too much pressure because it feels like a lot of pressure and everyone's there, but they get intense. I mean, a pass rusher may have 12 to 15 reps in one-on-one throughout the week of practice, and if he wins 10 of those, he's probably going to go up 3 rounds from where he is right now, and same thing for the offensive lineman. So it turned out to see that, as a stressful environment for these guys, but they're competitors, and NFL teams know it's a tough situation. But again, no doubt there have been guys who have made millions of dollars at an All-Star week just because of how they played in that O-line, D-line, one-on-one rep.
Eric, we really always appreciate your time, but you have Middlebury, and North Dakota State is represented. I think I saw Colorado School of the Mines, Lindenwood, Montana State, who obviously they had a hell of a run, Minnesota Duluth, and some of those programs. How huge is it for those players and those programs to get a shot here? Because these are guys that are here for a reason.
Yeah, I'll credit our scouting staff. They do a great job every year watching not just the Alabamas and Georgias, but the Minnesota Duluths and the Middlebury, and they've done a great job finding these guys, even before NFL teams sometimes realize how good they are. But no doubt it's huge this week. And I would say arguably those small school guys, it's probably the most important for them above anybody else, because this is a chance to say you belong, or if you don't have a great week, you don't belong in the NFL. And I think unfortunately for some of these guys, this week can mean more than a whole senior season of college film. But Thomas Perry's working with Duke Manyweather, one of the best O-line coaches out there all off season. He's ready to go for this opportunity. Aiden Williams, Minnesota Duluth, that started games at left tackle and guard at Minnesota Duluth. He's played great players. He's going to have a great week. Cam Miller at North Dakota State. He's won across the FCS level. He almost beat Colorado earlier in the year too. So these guys are not just small school guys here for fun. They belong, and they're going to show NFL teams this week.
The Shriners Children's Mission, which of course is the title of the bowl game, the Shriner East-West Shrine Bowl. Unbelievable to be able to give to them, to those who need it, those who need help, and all the care as possible with the Shriners patients around the country. I love what you're doing, buddy. It's great to see you. We will have you on again. Tell Jonathan, Rob, and Tony Fay we all said hi, because when they said, hey, would you like to have Eric Galko? I said,
never heard of him.
Never. No. Who is he? And you're great at what you do. You know that. We appreciate it. We'll hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good talk to you guys.
See you soon. Eric Galko, who is 100 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
God, I love his insight, his depth of what he knows. I mentioned those schools. He starts ripping off the names of the players at those particular schools. He is the director of football operations and player personnel for the East-West Shrine Bowl. It's AT&T Stadium. This is a hell of a bowl game. It's next the 30th. This is a game, if you're around the Texas area, that there are some dudes in this game. And so if you have a chance to go support the game, I love the fact it's in the state of Texas. All right, Paul Catalina and the top 5 just around the corner. Did he say anything to you, either one of you guys, on players that caught your attention a little bit more or surprised you?
No, I mean, I think that if you're a fan of Draftnik, you should watch and follow along with the East-West Shrine Bowl. They've got and the things go through, there were so many games and all that. But the East-West Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl are now, to me, on and it wasn't always that way. Eric and the staff have done a great job on equal footing as the talent that they have there and how important it is. And one of the things I think is really cool, and I didn't get to ask him about, usually like players kind of scattershot around. There's a bunch like Colorado all went together. The whole
in this game.
Yeah. It's not just
they have a defensive back, they have wide receivers.
Yeah. I mean, Travis Hunter's not in it, but he doesn't maybe need this much, I guess. But Shedur's in it. Like there's
Taj Brooks.
Taj Tech. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that went to there's 4 Tech guys. I'm impressed that Shedur is doing it for sure. Absolutely. All these guys are doing that because sometimes you get in the don't need to. And I do think it's a credit to people don't understand. Deion's old school a little bit. And, there's all this flash that goes with him, but he still comes out of an era in the NFL where you went to all-star games and did those things. And his players are going and doing it, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Rondé Gadsden, I'm glad you brought him up because, I remember him. He played with the Miami. Is that right?
The Cowboys, too.
The Cowboys for a while, too. And his son now at Syracuse, and what a nice year Fran Brown and they had at Syracuse this year. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for great deals, great customer service, and great repairs on your vehicle. Great whatever you're looking to do, basically, is the bottom line over at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. And right now, a part of all of what they've got going on are the great offers on a variety of different vehicles. For example, you've got a little bit of excitement and no more gasoline bills if you're up for EVs. Well, they've got the Cadillac Lyriq, a must-drive. You will see and feel the difference over other everyday electric vehicles instantly when you sit inside of a Cadillac Lyriq and take a test drive, which you can do today over at Richard Carr Cadillac. So just start off with something a little bit different from the typical gas machines that you can still peruse through as well. So if you're just somebody that for whatever reason is going that EV route, again, the Cadillac Lyriq right now over on the lot, you can test drive it and also take advantage of all their great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. That also includes on the more traditional side, the all-new Buick and Vista in stock right now at Richard Carr, starting under $24,795. It's a car and driver's editor's choice, so you can also peruse through the various Buick models like the Invista, but they've got the GMCs, they've got the Cadillacs, they've got a lot for you there, and they've got more than just cars. They've got customer service, they've got their repair shop, and they've got great people who've been working there for a couple decades now here in Central Texas that are locally owned, locally run, and the best kind of people you can deal with when you're looking to get your vehicle in tip-top shape or to get into a brand-new vehicle. So Richard Carr, having been a part of this community for over 40 years, wants you to do business with them as they've been doing business in Waco and giving back to the Baylor and Waco community. So deal with the people you can count on at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Check them out at richardcarr.com or off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Looking for a wheeled cooler, this is the Arctic 52-quart ultralight wheeled cooler. I hauled it on a deck, I hauled it downstairs, upstairs, grass, gravel, sandy road, mud puddles, the whole bit. And I gotta say, it is pretty darn tough. I really do like the wheels and the tow handle. It's easy to hold on to, even when full. It made it 6 full days with ice present, still keeping cool enough temperatures to keep drinks cold. This is a great cooler. And if you're looking for a new wheeled cooler that tows really nicely, this is a great option.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
There are hundreds of things that can affect our sleep, but what's affecting yours? Sleep Doctor's Home Sleep Test brings the precision of a sleep lab into the comfort of home to help you get answers and unlock a lifetime of great sleep. Start now at sleepdoctor.com/TV.
Time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Today, we're going through the most disappointing seasons. I bet you can all guess who number 1 is. I won't yell and I won't cry. Number 5, Michigan. Look, they finished strong, beating Ohio State and then Alabama in the bowl game. But I bet you that made everybody think, like, what if they just had a quarterback all year long? If they had gone in the transfer portal, I don't know, like, I might have tried to get Kyle McCord just to spite Ohio State. But they didn't do that. And look, they have a new coaching staff and there's a lot of there's a lot of things going on at Michigan, but their misassessment of that position led them to the disappointing season that they had. If they had somebody who could walk and chew gum, who knows where they might have been defending their national championship crown. Still, they had a pass for a year, won the national title, Harbaugh left, but still a disappointing season given the fact you did nothing to address the quarterback position in the offseason. They have now added Mikey Keene and, of course, Bryce Underwood's coming, so I expect the Michigan Wolverines to be better on offense next year, but let's see what Sharon Moore can do in year 2 before we say back in contention for the Big Ten title. Number 4, Ole Miss. Finished just outside the playoff. This all had a very, if not now, when feeling for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. And what happened? Yeah, you lost a couple games in the SEC, but you lost a game to 4-8 Kentucky. That's why you're not in the playoff. A playoff team doesn't lose to 4-8 teams. That was the difference between you and everyone else, Lane. That and that alone. And you guys spent a lot of money on that roster. And a lot of that's now walking out the door. Jackson Dart, gone. Walter Nolan, gone. Princey Uman-Milan, gone. Trey Harris, gone. Like, that's a lot, not to mention some of the other guys that are out the door. Now, will Ole Miss reload and kind of be the same again? Yes, but I'm stopping short of putting that team in the playoff until they actually make the playoff. Number 3, Utah. A lot of us thought going in, this is going to be Kyle Whittingham's last year. They're in a position, in fact, picked to win the Big 12. They were very, very far away from that. Dear God, were they ever super, super far away from that because they bet it all on Cam Rising, who wasn't healthy. Do I think they bounce back this year? Yeah, I do. Kyle Whittingham's back because he's not going out like that, and Devin Dampier's there at quarterback. They've been good at everything else except keeping a quarterback healthy. I think it'll be really interesting. New OC in there for the Utes as well. I think it'll be really interesting to see them this year in the Big 12. They could be one of the comeback teams. From Utah to another disappointing Big 12 team in UCF. They looked like they had started to make strides at the end of last year. Second year in the Big 12, they go get KJ Jefferson. Just didn't work out. Fell flat on its face. Everything was so bad, Gus Malzahn decided he didn't want to be a head coach anymore and left. They went back in time and got Scott Frost, and we'll see how that works out for them. But part of the reason that they went back in time to the feel-good times was this was such a disappointing year, especially with R.J. Harvey and Penny Boone and Kobe Hudson and some of the players they had in offense that they thought were going to help run the league. That did not happen for the Knights. Now they're back to the drawing board, back in time with Scott Frost, seeing how that works out. And number one, the place where Gus Malzahn went to go and help, FSU. Dear God, FSU. A 13-0 regular season last year turns into a 2-10 regular season this year. Why? Poor roster management and bad decisions from the athletic department all the way down every step along the way. The outside noise got to them in ways I probably can't even describe. They were not able to block it out. They let the College Football Playoff Committee defeat them 11 times. They let them defeat them in the bowl game and then 10 times this year. That's what happened. They made bad decisions. They made bad financial decisions. Bad all the way around. Now, new coordinators, new staff, new quarterback in Thomas Castellanos, a lot of new players, and some new hope there in Tallahassee. But it is not the best way in the world to follow that up. And we are all, this young man right there, just sitting there, mouth agape, wondering how in the blue F does this happen? Sorry, I said I wouldn't yell. But by far the most disappointing team. Just missed it, Oklahoma State. Because I don't know how good they were supposed to be in the first place. I think they overrated themselves from the beginning and did not improve themselves in the spots they needed to improve themselves, particularly on defense and, the guy who takes the snaps. But they were just outside this list. And I've piled on Mike Gundy enough in these top fives. I didn't feel the need to do it again. Plus, who's more disappointing than these jamokes from Tallahassee right here? I love you guys. I love you. But you're killing us. Look at this. Look at this poor kid. Look at him. That's a kid who loved and was not loved back by his team. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, rant over. Show over. Smokey, say bye-bye.
All right, thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate it. Garrett Ross, great stuff weaving throughout. Intern Andrew, am I allowed to call him that? Intern Andrew?
Sure.
Also, Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Those of you in the chat, I sit there and I go in there and I go like, There was a time, Garrett, I would go in there and I would want to scold people, but yep. I just have given up. It's helpless. All right, thanks to all of our great guests. Thank you for watching whatever you do. 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. We're back again tomorrow. Good night on 365 Sports.